Hello, everybody, and welcome to tonight's Get in Tune. I'm Michael Gracia, and this is the first Get in Tune of 2025. So, Happy New Year, guys. Thank you all for tuning in. Hi to Dylan in the audience. I have a wonderful show planned. I was hoping to have a new intro for you guys, but I haven't finished. I haven't finished editing it yet. So hopefully, in the next couple of weeks, you'll see a new intro for Get in Tune. Um, but yeah, so I hope again, Happy New Year. I hope you guys had a great holiday. Uh, everybody was good and happy, and my I don't know. I'm kind of like excited and a little dazed because I have such a for me this is going to be a fun show. I have three friends of mine on who I am a big fan of their work. They've all returning guests to the show, but this year I wanted to start off a little different. Just instead of having people on and just chatting and interviewing, I wanted to talk about kind of what our New Year's resolutions are creatively, like for our comics, our business, whatever it is. And I got a few, but I'll save mine for later. Let's bring on our guests. We're going to start here with, if my mouse gets to the right screen, with Mike Belcher.
Hey there, how's it going?
Good. JM DeSantis and
Hello.
Enoch. How you doing? I'm just going to move this so that it does not hit my eye. I guess it doesn't matter. It's not going anywhere. Oops, I accidentally took off. Okay, welcome back. So, first off, you guys, thank you for coming on and Happy New Year.
Happy New Year.
Happy New Year.
New Year, brother.
I hope it started. Yep, I hope it started off great for all you guys. For just, can you guys give yourselves a quick intro? Start with Mike and just kind of go to JM, then Enoch, just so the audience knows who you guys are.
Okay, I'm Mike W. Belcher. I am the creator of Man in the Mask. You may have caught it somewhere along the interwebs. I also do lettering for a bunch of my friends, and I've been known to do a couple covers for other people. Lifelong comic fan, and I'm just happy to be here.
Great, thank you, Jam.
Yeah, I'm J.M. DeSantis, writer, artist, comics, novels, children's book. Comic-wise, you would know me for A Kid in a Comic and Hadhiyana. And I'm also the publisher at Darkfire Press.
Nice. And Enoch.
What's up, guys? My name is Enoch. I am just a freelance illustrator and educator in the arts and illustration cartooning for like a younger youth. I spend most of my time doing my own personal illustrations, doing my own personal comics, and just teaching the craft. I love the craft itself and just working it. So one of my favorite things to do is just to teach that knowledge into the youth.
Yeah, I used to do that a lot. I actually miss that sometimes.
It's great.
Yeah, it's
Cool.
fun. It's great when you see the kids really get excited
Mm-hmm.
and figure out, all the little techniques you've been showing them, and it just like the light goes off for them.
Yeah. It's so amazing. It's so amazing to witness and see them approach it and really tackle it.
So, tonight's topic is New Year's resolutions for ourselves as creators. I'll start with one of mine, and then we'll go around you guys. And I want to talk about, and you guys could ask each other questions. People in the audience, feel free to ask. If you're a creator watching and you have a resolution, throw it in the comments. So for you, here's one of my big ones that for me, I'm going back traditional as an artist. I spent a lot of time digital. It was something where it just sped up my work, and you guys know as freelancers, it's easier to work with clients sometimes digital.
Mm-hmm.
Me personally, though, I'm tired of staring at screens. I literally have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 plus my eye. So 5 monitors in front of me, my phone and my iPad. That's 7 screens I stare at all day long. So I don't like to watch TV anymore. I just want my screen to do the work I need to do. So I went back. I'm going back to traditional. I bought some new paper I haven't used in a while, some new inks, some pens and nibs, things I used to use a while ago. Bought myself a new printer behind me, and scanner. It's an all-in-one, so I could actually start working again the way I was accustomed to. So that's my New Year's resolution, is to remove myself from screens, and create art. The way I fell in love with it.
Amen.
Yeah, just a pencil and a paper.
Yeah.
No high tech to that.
Yeah, man. That's the old ways, Sometimes you just have to go back to it. It always calls. No matter. I feel like if you're always doing digital, there's always that little piece inside of you that wants to create that physical piece,
And digital will be a part of my workflow, but it's not going to be the main part anymore.
Yeah.
And I just hope I don't have to stare into a light box as much. But that's the thing. Anyway, who wants to go next with just a beginning resolution?
I guess I could.
Go for it, man.
Yeah, I mean, for me, honestly, I just have to put out more books this year, work on them more. Last year, it felt like I was so concentrated on doing shows that creatively I didn't have a lot of time. So, I got to get back to concentrating on more, because I didn't, except for A Kid in a Comic, there wasn't anything new that I was putting out. Oh, this is perfect, Cirilla. So, I need to get back to putting out books again.
Yeah, that's actually another one of mine, but it goes with other stuff, so I'll talk about that.
Do you have are those like certain books like personal ideas that you highlight? This cat is great, man. Just taking the stage, man.
Yeah, she always does.
Nice. Are they like personal books, or are there like certain book do you want to say them out loud, like what the ideas are, or you want to keep to yourself?
I mean, it's nothing that I haven't at least, I mean, I'm not secretive about the stuff. There's a couple of novels that I want to get out. Hey, Cirilla. Maybe one about cats, not really, but no, there's a couple of novels that I had meant to get out last year, and I don't necessarily know if I'll meet the goal of getting them out this year, but I'm going to try, because one of them's like halfway through, and the other one is most of it's outlined. And then there's my hadhiyana comic. I mean, I've been stalling on getting out the 3rd issue for a couple of years, actually. And there isn't that much holding it up, but I haven't really been putting in the time to doing it. I should get her out the move so that it looks like she's talking.
I gotta say,
what's the longest process for you? Oh, I'm sorry.
No, I just want to say about your cat. I haven't seen her that close ever. I've seen her walk by you and sit on you, but never like that. She's a gorgeous cat.
No, she definitely is. I mean, she's lucky she is, because, this is she always chooses when I have a live stream or an interview, and then she gets up. Actually, she gets up here plenty when I'm trying to work too. So, she's she's a minor reason for slowdown on art, but
Love it.
She's a factor.
Yeah. Okay, who wants to go next?
Enoch, you can go first.
Yeah, sure. I don't mind at all.
Yeah, so
it's funny. Mike, you spoke about going traditional, and that's something I've been traditional for the last I would say year and a half. I have took a dive more into the traditional route, But I've been really I really want to get back into, not even back into, but I really want to get into like just oil painting. You know, and really getting into like the old traditional ways. I've been falling in love with a lot more classical paintings, old school like eras of art, like during specifically like in the late 1800s to early 1900s. A lot of like the old classical American painters that I'm like falling in love with now. And I grew up, you know, you know this. I grew up with a lot of like anime and cartoon stuff, and I always loved it. I still love it. Will always love it. But I've been searching for something deeper in the arts, and I'm starting to see within these older classical artists that they're exhibiting something within their pieces that is very I guess to me spiritual. I'm trying to see what that is, and I feel like the only way for me to, you know, figure it out what it is to do it myself, you know, and just really tackle that. So I've been looking a lot of like pre-Raphaelite art, and some stuff in like even Dean Cornwell, who's not even, you know, who's super famous. I kind of just recently got into him, and I'm just like, wow, I'm just getting blown away by all this amazing beautiful work. Like who else? Like Howard Pyle's paintings. And just, I'm like, wow, man, I wish I knew about this as a kid. I would have loved to have, you know, started that when I was younger. And I see it now, I'm like, you know what? This is the time to get into that now. So who knows what it'll be by the end of the year? Who knows how far I will go? But I know I definitely want to start that journey now. So I'm very excited.
It's funny you guys are all saying this stuff, because and you know, Michael knows I'm like, that's all I've ever done is traditional.
Oh, sweet.
Yeah, so I just have stuck to it. I remember, I mean, there were guys that were telling me at the beginning of my career, you know, this is back in the early 2000s, they were like, now switch to digital, don't even bother, don't paint, don't do. And they were harping on me that I was making a huge mistake. And I was like, no, it'll come back around, and I'll have originals to sell, and you guys will be sitting on a stack full of files. And you know,
it's true.
And I don't mean to naysay it, because I really do have an appreciation for, there are a lot of digital artists I like, but I just I like paint underneath my fingernails. I like the rub of the pencil on my hand, and I like being able to touch the artwork. I lose something when I try to do digital. And like Michael was saying earlier, I found out when I went to school, because I went for computer animation, I did not want to stare at a computer screen my whole life. I would have jumped out a window a long time ago. You know,
I feel that, man, completely.
Yeah.
I'm sorry to interrupt, but you mentioning that with the whole idea of people talking about, you know, oh, you got to go traditional because, you know, the digital art wave is going to take over. During the summer, I was in California studying under it was a boot camp. I was there for a week, but it was the Watts Atelier, and a phenomenal art school. And the guy who runs it, his name is Jeffrey Watts, and he made this great point that, you know, when people were painting and when photography came out, people were still painting. No one stopped painting, even when you were able to take pictures. You know,
right?
It didn't stop painters. So when digital art started coming about, what's going to stop the same painters from making traditional art? Even with AI, you know, AI is out, you know, but people are still going to paint. Like it's not going to stop. It's like a human experience that people love.
Yeah, I mean, 100%, you know, and I'm finding more on the convention scene now, people are like, oh, you know, you do original art, because they can almost verify looking at it like that it's not AI or anything, you know.
Yeah, it's a different experience.
Yeah, it definitely is. And I find most of the artists that I like that do digital, they know traditional even if they don't use it. So it kind of like informed the way they work digitally.
Yeah.
They just have a better understanding of the way color works, and they're just
It's a different
simple
mind.
things like contrast and form and everything, and how to layer everything. It just
Even just putting out a palette, it's like you got to put time. You really got to put time into that. Really think about those colors and where they sit.
yeah.
Oh,
And
yeah.
I feel, but that's where there's where there's an opposite part to it. Where I used to teach, I always told my students that digital is great for one thing, and it was great for me for this too. You can experiment more digitally because you're less worried about screwing up.
Yeah,
because you can just hit undo or delete the file. It doesn't feel as permanent.
absolutely.
I know this might be making it difficult to.
No,
None
don't
of the
worry.
lip readers can understand what I'm saying. Nobody wants the cat butt though, lady. This is a bit unusual for her,
By the way, I just
but
gotta say, I'm sorry.
yeah,
but
she's not usually like up on my shoulder like this. Michael
What?
can, yeah, she can. She doesn't usually do this, but yeah, with the digital stuff, like I started understanding layering colors better because of working in layers in Photoshop and just getting to experiment. And that made me more confident doing it with paints, So
Yeah.
there's a little bit of a give and take if you learn both mediums.
Yeah, that's true. It's a good point.
Yeah.
All right.
Mike, I hope you're not like a super digital guy. We're just over here just.
Well, that's what I was going to say, because I went the other way this year after being traditional for decades.
Oh wow!
I went digital this year completely, whereas I was doing pencils and ink, and for me, it wasn't necessarily because I wanted to. It was kind of my resolution for last year was to re-energize. I needed, I felt going into last year, I had kind of lost some stuff. And, my day job is doing books and graphic design. And I was not putting any time into my comics. And I just made the decision to go fully digital because I'm already at a screen 8 or 9 hours a day. And I can fit in here and there on my Huon over here, a page. And I can sit here all day long in between jobs and get pages done. And that's kind of because it was basically a situation: do I want, my artistic impulses, or do I want my comics? And that, again, that was the focus of last year. I wanted to put out more comics. I wanted stories. I wanted something in my hand. And so that's kind of the reason I went digital this year. It was basically a matter of just time and craft. And the thing about it is, I'm with you guys. I mean, you learn things through digitally that you can, on my side doing commissions, I still do pen and ink. And, there are things you learn by going through stages of digital. And so there's good things to it. There's bad things to it. Yeah, it's on a screen. You're not really, the tactile's not there. But, again, I did get that resolution last year. I felt like I did more comics last year, and they definitely didn't suffer for me doing digitally. I was happy with them. I was, I think the way they turned out were quite nice.
Yeah.
Now, does that mean I'm never going back to traditional? Of course, I'm going to go back to traditional. I love, there's something about having an easel in your lap and a pencil in your hand and just an eraser, and that's all you need to make comic books. I mean, or any kind of art. It's the most low tech. There's nothing that's holding you back. You don't have to have the, whatever kind of rig that you got. So of course, traditional is always special, but as far as productivity, I kind of had to, I had to kind of take the, by the neck and figure out what's more important. Is me, having some certain control over certain things more important than actually getting my comics the way I want? Because I do the whole thing. I mean, my son helps me with coloring, but I'm writing, I'm drawing, I'm inking it, I'm lettering it, I'm doing the whole shebang. So time's not always on my side.
You know,
So so that's really using the digital stuff.
Yeah. You know, and it makes sense. Like, I feel like a lot of people who don't do comics, they don't really understand the amount of ridiculous work doing all those things are.
Yeah.
It is such a hefty load when you're doing it all by yourself. And
Yeah.
when you have to explain it to people, like, you're thinking about like just doing like compositions for panels, seeing how the panels relate to one another. Do the characters look the same? You know, does the script work? Does this make sense with this balloon here, or this balloon here? And then having to fit the words in like that. It makes sense. You would think it made sense why those people have those specific jobs when you just want it to go down the pipelines for it to be just done so quickly. So when you show a regular person, yeah, I did all of this.
Yeah.
It's like it's a load.
Right.
Yeah, it takes a lot of time. You're sitting here trying to balance. You know, I'm not heavily financed, so I mean, my day job is pretty much what funds my comics, and so you kind of break it down. But like I said, last year, 24 was really good. You know, if the theme of last year was re-energize, the resolution for this year is refine. Take what I learned in 24 and laser focus it to make more and better. You know, that's what my resolution for this year is refine and just be better at my craft.
I'm writing that down.
Yeah.
Refine. That's the way.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's funny. I had a situation opposite of yours, Mike, with when it came to working traditionally, because just like the art stuff, I always write longhand when I write my scripts and my novels and everything. I edit on the computer, of course, because that's more convenient, but I always get out the first draft by hand. Part of the reason I did that is because when I was in college writing my first novel, it was still I can answer that question for Julio. It was still in an era where there weren't too many laptops, so everybody was working on a desktop, and there was only one in the house, and my mother and brother dominated the usage time on it. So I just hid myself in a storage closet in the house and wrote my novel longhand over there, because I was like, I'm never getting computer time. The only way this is getting done is if I don't use the computer. So, but I understand, to your point, why, if you're 90, 70, 80% of your day is on the computer, why it would be easier than to just, you have access, so just do it there.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, that was it. Just talking about the convenience factor and how sometimes we fall into a habit with how we're doing something,
Yeah, it's been an interesting change because the thinking's still there. I mean, you still have to do, the digital, it's just another tool. It glides a little more than a pencil does, but you're still having to compose everything. You're still having to sit there and get the anatomy right and get the backgrounds and everything. I'm not, and I don't let Clip do too much of the heavy lifting. I don't let it clean up too much. I try to make it. I try to make it as clear as it's my hand as I can. And like I said, I just had to sacrifice not having originals for my pages, but again, the benefit of having a comic in my hand is always more rewarding. I'm selling. As far as shows, I don't do a lot. There's not a lot in Kentucky, and as far as where I can get to, plus they're getting so daggone expensive as far as being able to make anything from the table. So I've got a pretty decent readership, and so the idea is to turn over more comics that I'm proud of. I'm proud of turning around, and my newsletter. I've got a little Substack that I put new content out to kind of help motivate me, and so again, here's the 25 being refined.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I was going to say, and this is, just going, and then we'll get off the digital topic. My day job goes from 10 a.m. to 7 p.m. All right. I am on a computer basically straight through that. If I had downtime to like even just sketch a little bit, I mean, I occasionally I'll open up Clip Studio or I keep my drawing pad next to me. Sometimes I just need to refresh my mind for 5 minutes and I'll just do a quick doodle. But I'm not doing anything of value. So before I start my day or I end my day, I don't want to sit in that chair I just sat in for the last 8 hours, you know, on the computer. I want to, be somewhere else. So that's one of the reasons I also am moving away from it.
Makes sense.
But let's add. Is it Julio? Is that how you pronounce your name? Because I know somebody spells it that way and says Julio. So, but what's the best way to get over writer's block? Jam, you said you can answer that.
Yeah, but I feel like I'm always the contrarian here. I actually don't believe in writer's block.
Me neither.
Yeah.
I think so. Let me put it this way: as somebody that deals with anxiety heavily, I have a very intimate knowledge of it. All writer's block really boils down to is just having anxiety about the actual, whether it's the process of or your ability, or you're just overthinking the story or whatever. So yeah, it's usually factors that are outside of actually just sitting down and doing the work. Not saying that it can't keep you from doing the work, but it is kind of like a misnomer because it really has nothing to do with the writing. It's more what you're kind of letting in and interrupt the process. So I would say the best way to get over it is really, find ways to kind of like get yourself in a calm or even ambitious frame of mind where you can just work and not think about all that stuff. Whether that's go take a walk, relaxation techniques, watch a funny movie, whatever it is to just get your head. Like when I draw, I usually listen to YouTube channels and stuff like that. I can't do that while I write because I need the quiet, but I do that just so that my brain doesn't start like looping on itself and then I can't get any work done, So if you can write to music, great, then do that. Whatever gets you out of your head. That's what I would say.
Yeah, I agree.
I honestly, I wash dishes. That's what I do every day. As soon as I go on my lunch hour, that's my relaxation time. And I make sure all the dishes from the morning just stay in the sink until I go to lunch. And that's like my meditative time to get out of all that. I'm sorry, what?
No, I said that's interesting. That's actually pretty cool. So you get that Zen state when you do that.
Another way, if I've been stuck on something, I just write something else. I just write like paragraphs upon paragraphs of maybe just junk. The sky is blue. I'm listening to AC/DC, and it's amazing staying productive. Gets you out of it too. Just sitting there typing just anything. Oh, and then it's like, oh, that goes into this. Oh, I can go back and do this. Like I said, I found the best way is to stay productive. Like I said, my day job doing books and having to do design work, I kid to somebody, in the immortal words of Jesse the Body, I ain't got time to bleed.
Yeah.
Well, I don't have time to get stuck on something because typically I don't have the time to do it. So I find ways of jarring myself. If I'm like stuck on something, I'll just do something kind of in the same vein, and then just, like I said, just write nonsense, and then it just boom. Yeah.
It's funny. I have two things to add to that. One, I don't remember who it was, but there was an artist that said, if you don't have any ideas to draw, and of course this is going back before digital and stuff, it's like just go in the studio and sharpen pencils until you're ready to draw. So. And the other one was when I was still teaching, actually, there was a big district art show that was coming up, and it was like a big deal. You didn't want to like screw it up or anything. And it was my first year teaching. I had only been on the job like a few months. And a coworker was like, man, you're just like, are you even like worried about this at all? And I was like, I don't have time to be worried. I got to get it done. Like, you know,
Yeah.
and he used to be a psych major, and he's like, huh, that's interesting, because you're almost saying that people that have too much time on their hands are the ones that, like, you know, worry about stuff. It's like, yeah, that's kind of what I'm saying. You know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like one of those things where you just got to do it. Like, you know, you can't, I feel like when you have like artist block in general, or just like a writer's block, there's just a sense like you just got to do it, even when it feels dreadful. Like if it comes out garbage and you think it's garbage, oh, well, it's garbage. Like, you know, it's like, there's always that joke. Like you always see that iceberg meme. I don't know if you guys seen it, where it's like, oh, what people see, and it's like, oh, then you see the tip of the iceberg. Then the rest of the iceberg is all the things that an artist did and what it took to get to that spot. But no one ever sees what's happening in that middle part of the iceberg. Like you're just producing junk. You're doing all these different things just so you can get to that pinnacle. You know, so you just got to go. You got to put yourself in the ringer, and that's one of the things I personally enjoy. Some of my friends always tell me I'm pretty crazy for that, because I kind of love putting myself in the ringer in some of those moments where you don't want to do it, but you know, just bang it out, you know.
It's a good attitude to have, though. You know, it really is. Yeah.
And
you gotta push it.
I'm sorry to interrupt, but I you know, Jim, you mentioned about an art show. I just want Enoch to have time to advertise something going on tomorrow for him. So can you take a moment to tell us what's happening tomorrow?
Yeah, it's funny you said that. I've actually got excited in this conversation. It completely flew over my head. Yeah, so tomorrow in the Bronx Art Space, I'm located in the Bronx, so it's a Bronx art gallery, and beautiful gallery, and me along with three other illustrators are going to be just showcasing our own work and just our own stuff. I think what has been amazing with this art show is that, you know, there was no theme besides just being yourself and expressing. You know, it's a good friend of mine who was able to curate the show. He loved my work. He said, "Hey, listen, you know, I think this would be a great time where you can really express yourself however you want to, and all the work that you've ever done, and, you know, really just showcase it." So I'm very excited. I'm showing 6 brand new pieces, all 18 by 24. They're all done in ink, black and white ink, and just ink wash, and it's all based on the ideas of just the hero's journey, Christianity, and struggle. And I'm very excited to, you know, show those pieces. It's not very the themes aren't, well, you know, I guess the themes can be comic booky. You know, some comic books take it there, but I don't know. I guess it's more of a spiritual take on myself, and kind of like really pushing, you know, showing myself to the world, my subconscious, and bringing that out there. I've never done that before, so I'm very excited. You know, if anybody can come out, that would be great. Like I said before, it's located in the Bronx Art Space, and, you know, I can't wait. I'm very excited. So, and
tomorrow's the opening reception.
Yes.
As well as there'll be a talk with you and the other artists.
Yes, exactly. So I don't know what the talk is going to be like. We're probably going to talk about the pieces. So I'm one of those guys that, you know, I don't like to prepare when it comes to talking about my artwork. Like, you get what you get, and, you know, you ask me any questions, I'm going to speak to you very honestly. And I think that's the best. I think that's the best part about it. I think that's how you should be as an artist. I don't think there should be any real, you know, preparation. No one should tell you, "Oh, this is the question that they're going to ask you." I think you should just be honest about your work, and I'm very excited to just talk about it and show people basically who I am. So it's gonna be amazing.
Congratulations on that.
Sounds so awesome.
Yeah, congratulations.
Thank you, man.
Yeah,
It's actually my first gallery show. Like, I've done like little shows where I paid to be in, and I'm just like, oh God, why did I do that? but this, like, they actually came to me and they're like, hey, you know, we really think your work is great, so here we want to put you out there. So I'm very, very, very blessed and very grateful.
That's awesome. Just before, I want to just say hi to some people I haven't had a chance to in the comments. There's a couple of Davids watching. Hello to Nick and Kevin Garcia. Glad you guys could make. He was going to also come on. He was the possible surprise guest. Unfortunately, Thank you for watching. And he also says, and he's right about the ice cream. Absolutely, absolutely. So yeah, Kevin, you'll have to come on another time later this year. So yeah, another resolution. Does anyone want to go out, or you want me to go? How do you want to do it?
Well, you started. You should, if you have another one.
Well, my resolution is on kind of similar to yours, JM. It's producing work. I've always said for even the last couple of years, my goal is to produce work. I'm not doing a lot of shows. I haven't really done any shows since the pandemic. Maybe 5, handful of them. It's just how I am. And also right now, I just can't afford to do shows. There, like you said, they're expensive. But I want to produce work. I want to get my work out there. I just, ended The Wiz after 2 straight years of publishing him weekly. And I will be putting out a book of his this year, collecting that with a bunch of other stuff. But I don't know if I want to do a lot of books. I think I want to stay in the digital realm. I like the idea of the webcomic. So I don't know if I'm going to do something like a webtoon or do what I did with The Wiz and just put, strips up on Instagram and see what happens and with it. But I think I'm going to be doing more digital publishing than actual publishing. I will have, if I do multiple page stories, which I do plan to do, I will put them out in in a print on demand site that somebody can buy the book if they want it in print, but I'm going to aim for digital. I think it'll get my work out there faster to a wider audience and build up the audience in the categories that I want. So like The Wiz people were all people who wanted like comic strips and humor, and I do have another strip in me. But I got like sci-fi stuff in me, fantasy stuff in me. I've been working on something that would be kind of a tribute to like Buck Rogers and Flash Gordon and all those guys, and big sci-fi story in my head. Now, do I do it as a book or a strip? Haven't decided yet, but that's something that is a big focus of mine now. So I'm trying to learn more about the digital publishing world right now. And that's a big focus.
That's going to be a fun journey to go down.
Yeah.
I hope.
A rabbit hole.
Yeah.
So,
I'm definitely for that. I would love to see The Wiz as a book, man.
Well, there is a Wiz book. You can get it. Where do I have a copy near me that I can grab? No, I don't. But I do. Here it is.
Oh, nice. That seemed planned.
Yeah.
Nice.
This is the complete 2023 collection. What I'm going to do more for the next book, which will have all of 2024 in there, but the majority of 2024 was like a big D&D campaign. So the characters that came on the campaign, I'm writing strips for, and have been writing strips for a while. So they're going to have their own individual story that might be like 8 or 10 strips long. So they'll be added in there. I also just found about 3 months of strips I wrote but never drew. So I'll add those into it as well. So I'll draw those and add it in. I'll do more behind the scenes. In here, I only got like, 2 or 3 pages of behind the scenes. This is like from my sketchbook, of the Wiz, different designs and things.
That's organized so nicely.
Yeah.
So yeah, and then in the back, it's a quick guide on how I actually made the strip, and that was all completely digital. And I talk about my Photoshop template I made, and all the stuff. But yeah, I'll go into a more probably detailed behind the scenes stuff this year with the Wiz. And then the other strip I want to do, the humor strip, is actually the Wiz could guest star in because it's about a night, so it takes place in kind of same world.
That gets me interested. I love myself some nights, man.
I don't want to tell more right now, but one day I'll
Of course. You know, it's funny. It's funny you say that because like getting in more into like that digital world when it comes to like, you know, publishing and stuff. Like, I feel like one of the things I wanted to get into is just learning more how to really, you know, market myself digitally. You know, I feel like one of the worst things. I feel like one of the things that as most artists, you know, suffer with is just, you know, being able to put yourself out there. Especially, you know, we spend so much time learning the craft and folding in that, you know, folding the world of like, I don't care about what other people, you know, what other people think. You know, you just want to create, and I think that's rightfully so. I'll never take that away. But we really just figure out how to put yourself out there properly, especially in this day and age. You know, it's. I mean, I'm not that old, but I can tell things are very different from 15 years ago to now. How you promote yourself within you know, this digital world that we live in. So I feel like that's one of the things I really want to start learning how. Like, how are all these people really, you know, putting themselves out there and doing it successfully at that, because people are doing it and they're learning how to do it. So there's some type of system that people are following that I feel like I'm like, what is that? I gotta figure out what you know, what that is. See if I can tap into that, and you know, maybe use it as a tool for myself.
Well, I'll tell you something that I learned this past year, which might help, and I'm still sorting this out. And it kind of helped the year before. I did 38 shows in 2023. I did 57 last year, like in 2024.
Whoa.
Wow.
Now, just from posting, okay, these are the shows I have coming up next month, and then posting only once while I was at the show, 57 shows, I got known as the guy that was doing shows.
Yeah.
So my theory is, well, if I just post about the books or the artwork twice as much or 3 times as much as I'm posting about the shows, maybe,
Yeah,
you know, maybe that's what I got known for. So, you know,
there's a truth to that. It makes sense, you know. It makes sense. Like, I feel like you always think about, man, am I being annoying?
right. And I suffer from that. I don't want to continue
That's
posting
part of the
about
anxiety. I have the same issue.
Yeah. And I see people who just like, a friend of mine is a social media manager, and he's for a food company, and he does phenomenally at it. He makes a living off of it. I'm like, how do you think about stuff like to post? He just tells me, I don't care what people like. He's not looking at what people are commenting. He's not looking at what people are saying. Maybe he'll look at it just to get a understanding of what works and what doesn't. But he's like, I'm not like taking anything to heart. I'm just like, just throwing stuff down, posting and see what works, what doesn't, and what this works. Oh, we're sticking with this, and you know, and doing like that, you know, just flowing along with that. And I'm like, I guess that makes sense, you know, just doing it nonstop. But I guess that's like a whole other mindset that you have to shift yourself into. That's like completely opposite of making artwork. Like,
well,
all right, how do I make like content?
Yeah, I can give you another tip that I'm trying out. I've only been trying it the last couple of days, so I don't know if this will work. But an artist I was talking to indirectly mentioned that this was something that they do, and I won't out him or whatever, and I hope I'm not like sharing information. But he schedules his posts.
Oh,
and
yeah,
he does not just do the scheduled posts, but he does every Sunday night sit down and schedule his posts for the week. And I've been trying that, and I do have to say there's a lot less self-consciousness about it once I have it done and just like banked.
That makes sense.
I've only been doing it the night before right now, just to like, and there are a couple of platforms I still have to go in and post for. But yeah, like I want to start doing it where either 2 weeks ahead or whatever, I just want to start scheduling posts because then I don't have to worry about it. It was there, it's up. I can respond to comments or whatever I want to do, but I don't have to think, oh, is this a good time for this? Forget it. It's already going up. Like,
Yeah, exactly.
yeah,
You know,
I imagine you would even forget. It's like, oh yeah, I posted that, and you're already
right.
worried about the next thing to schedule, so it's already like it's already in a flow that's happening.
I didn't do scheduled posts in the past because so many in the beginning when it was available, a lot of people recommended using third-party sites, and I was just like, I don't know that I want them having access to my social media,
Yeah.
But now even Facebook, Instagram has a business suite for Meta that you can schedule your posts out for. So I'm just playing with it. I don't know that it's perfect, but it might be something to think about.
Absolutely, no, you're right. I've seen it before. I never really tackled it seriously though.
Yeah.
There are sites you can go. Now, I'll say this. When I taught college, the last 2 years I was at a certain school, I helped develop and taught a social media marketing class.
Oh, right.
And I actually was doing the scheduled posts using third-party software. At the time, Hootsuite was the main, like the big one. And they had and for what I used, I was able to use their free account. Well, as of sometime last year or at the end of 2023, Hootsuite stopped the free service.
Right.
So, but I was able through that to connect. I had Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, and Twitter hooked up. All right. And I would post directly to them. And because Twitter had that limited amount of, whatever characters you can use, I'd have to change my posts for them. But I could say, and what I would do is I'd do a monthly calendar and for my projects. And I would say, okay, and I'll use the Wiz as an example. Let's say I was using it. I wasn't at the time, but I'd be like, okay, I have 4 weeks of the Wiz. There's 4 weeks this month. I know he comes out on Wednesday. He's going on this time on Facebook, this time on Instagram, this time on here. But I'm going to now I have a picture of the pencil section, and I'm going to put that up. Hey, in 2 days, see the rest. So I would schedule something daily so that people knew I was around, and I would experiment with different times of the day using something like a business account, like say on Instagram. You can study your analytics, and you can see where your posts are being read. So if you post at 5 p.m. and you're not getting read till 9 p.m., why are you posting at 5? Post closer to the 9 p.m. time. So that's what I would do. When I first started, I'd do a morning post, an afternoon post, and a evening post, and see when my posts got read more. And for me, my stuff got seen more during commuting time.
That makes sense.
And then some people would see it at bedtime. So I'd be like, okay, do I want to post at 10 p.m.? And that's I'm sorry. I saw a comment that cracked me up. A certain school. He knows.
Yeah.
So David says the key is momentum, really, to continuously post and look up upcoming things and content you want to put up. People enjoy being part of the process. Yeah.
Makes sense. Yeah.
Process videos are always great.
Oh, yeah. Well, there's still, don't get me wrong, I'm not totally swearing off organic posts. But like you, Michael, I find that if I post at 8 in the morning, that's when I get the most views on a post. If I post later in the day, it's Russian roulette. It's doesn't matter what time I try. It's 8 o'clock in the morning seems to get the most traction over the course of the day. So I'm sticking to that. I guess I don't have any fans out in California, but
yeah.
So
I remember one time I posted a reel, and it got some pretty hefty views. And it was funny that David mentioned momentum. It made me think. I remember thinking of the views I was getting on the reel, and I was like, oh man, I had to post another one. When I posted another one, the view count was the same, and I'm like, oh man, this does make sense. But then I absolutely got lazy and I just didn't keep it up. And I wondered, like, oh man, if I just kept that momentum going when that was happening, it probably would have been very, very beneficial.
But technically, it's applicable to everything we do, right? Because it's not just the social media posts. Like, if you're going to succeed as a creator, you always have to have new work coming out. It doesn't have to be daily, right? But you always have to have something new. I was just having a conversation with a vendor friend of mine because I was talking about how I want to do more books. I was saying, people come up to my table, and if I tell them too many times that I don't have something new, they're going to stop coming back. You do have to constantly have new stuff coming out. So really, it's like a micro thing with the social media. It's smaller amount. It's
like the same solution,
shorter content, right? But you still have to have it out all the time.
Yeah.
So that really, and I guess in that sense, it's not too much different. It's just how many of us really want to be spending that much time on social media?
Yeah.
Which is why I go back to the scheduled post, because then you can always add a new thing when it comes up, right? But I sometimes have artwork that I haven't posted because I either got one, lazy because I've been burnt out from shows, or two, overthink it, or three, it's just I want to wait for something, whatever, If I just have it scheduled out, that stuff doesn't get backlogged,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely, I get that.
It's like my new toy right now, so I'm kind of hawking it a bit. Yeah. But I'm finding it works, because then in the morning I can deal with other stuff and not have to worry about, okay, I got to write this post out now and post it to 7 different social media accounts, right? Because I'm on Cara, Blue Sky, Threads, Instagram, Facebook, with both my personal and my regular page.
Everywhere.
Yeah. So that's another part of it. But you can, even if you don't use Meta's thing, I don't think Threads can schedule posts, but you could, in each of your Facebook or Instagram accounts, I know you can schedule them.
But when you create an Instagram post, doesn't it automatically go to Threads if you have a Threads account?
But if you schedule it, it won't.
Oh, okay. I didn't know that.
Yeah. Apparently, unless you're using the Facebook, unless you're using Meta Business, it will only post wherever you post, it will only post to that account. Like even with Facebook, like you can sometimes, okay, I'm going to share a post and now I can share it to 3 of the groups I'm in. If you schedule the post, you can't post it to any groups. So it's like there are some restrictions, So certain things I might just have like the text copied and I still have the stuff on my phone. I'll just go on real quick and bam, 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 get it done. When I want to post it to, say, a group, I might save that one account, not schedule it, for that one day.
Facebook used to have a really great feature where when you wanted to share, so if I made a post on, say, Michael Gracia or my Get in Tune page, and I wanted to share it to groups to let people know, I would just click share, and then I would click groups, and then it would give me the list of all the groups I belong to, and I could just check off whichever ones and hit the button share. They stopped doing that.
Well, you can do 3. You can do 3 groups.
That's probably new with Meta. They didn't have that when I wanted to do that a while ago. So I haven't looked into it. But I used to share all this stuff out, like my advertising for this show even, to a bunch of groups. Let's see. Social media is a must nowadays. We need it to help each other. It is true. I mean,
and I resisted it. I was one of those people that was not an early adopter of it.
Yeah, I wasn't either. I got on Facebook. I'll tell you the truth, because my wife, we were engaged, and I was living in the apartment that we got, and she would go to work, and I was on break from my day job, teaching, and she was like, "Go on Facebook. We can play games together." Well, and that's why I joined Facebook. And then I'm like, "Oh,
Yeah.
I have friends on here, and I could use it for art." And then I'm like, I mean, I didn't like really the games too much anyway. I'm not someone who's into like Facebook games, but you know.
I had friends, that I mean, I had MySpace for like a minute, but then I had friends that were pushing me to get on Facebook, right? And I finally like gave in, and they were like, "Oh, it's the greatest thing in the world." By the time it rolls around that I'm like starting to, I mean, years ago still, that I start like promoting my work and it becomes like an essential part of my business. They're like, "Oh my God, it's such a dumpster fire there. Get off of social media." It's like, you guys wanted this. Now I'm totally embracing it,
Yeah, that's what happens. Mike, you've been kind of quiet. Is there anything you want to add?
As far as social media, I hate it. I mean, there's no other way to say it. I can't stand it. The only reason I'm on social media is to publicize me. That's it. I tried to keep it as informal with it as I can, and that's one of the reasons that I started the Substack, is that I tried to kind of get everybody to come toward me and let me send stuff to them instead of having to fight the algorithms and just being noticed and being throttled and whatever with all these other really ridiculous. I mean, again, it's a good good publicity, but it's really kind of like throwing stuff against the wall and hoping it sticks.
Yeah.
And so it's so annoying because just reading the stuff that you have to read just to get your point across.
Yeah.
But like I said, that's the reason I went Substack. I'm hoping to build up my audience on Substack that, I could really just use the socials as, hey, come check out my Substack. And that way I can target my work toward people that are interested in my work. That's kind of the whole purpose of it, is to get away from social media, because like I said, I find it, I certainly am at the age that it wasn't a vital part of my life.
Yeah.
It was kind of something that, again, my friends kept on saying, "Hey, you've got a comic. Why don't you've got a great thing right there in front of you. You ought to use it to publicize it." And it's like, oh no, I can't stand the idea of Facebook or all these other things, or Twitter. Or, oh gosh, because I have friends that they tweet or post what they had for dinner. I don't care. I'm glad that you feel like you got to give your life to these people, but I could care less. I mean, but I gave in because it was, again, if I wanted to get my work out and be known, and it has done that. I'll give it that.
Right.
But at the same token, I hate it with a fiery passion.
It's love hate. It's love hate for me. It's funny you mention that too. It's not even the dinner stuff. Every time I go on some new show or some movie comes out, and I have a lot of friends, Michael probably knows some of them too, and they'll post their hot take, and it's like, I really could give a F what you think about it. And it's this long thing. It's like, I'm not reading that.
Yeah.
Scrolling by.
Yep.
Sometimes I comment on those just for fun.
I won't give them the attention. I won't bother. And some of them are people I like. Don't get me wrong.
Well, no, I like all of them who do it. It's just, I know. I mean, you know me. I'm very opinionated on these topics, and like I said, and I've been saying for a while, I stopped caring. I realized all these movies coming out, I'm not the target audience for. I want something good. Say, Superman, I got him on my chest. I got my comics. I got my DVDs. I got streaming. I got whatever of the Superman that I love. And I will go and enjoy that. So I stopped caring. Like today I saw a post about the girl from the Wicked movie, the woman who played Elphaba, who wants to play Storm. Don't know if it's true. I said, no, I don't see her as Storm. I just don't think she has a Storm look to her. But I've never seen her act. I don't know if she's a great actress or not. So I can't make an opinion. Well, I'm sorry, what?
No, I was like, good singer, I'll tell you that. I can't tell you. I can't say anything.
So, but that's the thing. It's like, if somebody says she's going to be amazing, okay, enjoy. If she gets the role, enjoy. It's just, I'm not. They're not making it for me.
Oh, I get it. I'm not. I'm not even. I mean, comic book movies too, but I just mean anything. Like
Yeah,
anything.
no, I know, but most of the people I follow are comic.
It's no, but it's funny because if that same person at a convention came up to me and wanted to have a conversation about that same thing in person, I'd be like, yeah, sure. I'd have the conversation. I'd have the conversation over text, phone call, whatever, messages. But I don't know. Publishing everything that comes up here does not have to go on your wall. It just, I don't know.
I get that.
Yeah.
My thing about social media I hate is just the politics. I'm tired of that.
Oh yeah.
I started turning people off. Like, you can mute them for 30 days or whatever.
Yeah.
When I see that too much, I'm just like, I'm done. I don't.
Yeah, I find just not interacting with the posts helps because I see less of them.
It's true. Yeah, you're absolutely right.
I spend a lot of time talking with people that either post about work or conventions or just like, I don't know, for lack of a better term, just like normal things that I want to interact with,
Yeah.
Even if it's something I'm passionate about, there are certain things that I'm just like, I'm not doing this on social media,
Yeah.
Absolutely.
You guys, I just want to say, I just noticed we hit the hour mark. I know some of you had to go. Do you want to continue? Do you want to stop for tonight? However you want to do. We could pick this up another night.
I actually have to let you guys go. Yeah, I'm absolutely cooked.
No, not a problem.
I
got work in the morning.
Yes. But it was a pleasure. Absolute pleasure.
Well, good luck tomorrow. Enjoy.
Yeah, definitely. Good luck.
We'll talk off the
Absolutely.
air. I'd love to come and see, meet up with you and go see the show. Maybe over.
Yeah, it's up for 1 whole month. So there's definitely time. Definitely time.
Cool.
So, all right, guys, it was a pleasure. Thank you so much.
See you.
Hours always fly by.
Yeah.
You're very welcome, man. Thanks for coming on.
All right, guys, be safe.
You too.
And I know he left, but just want to put up here. Yeah.
Yeah, one before that. I don't know. Silly Bill official.
Oh, I'm sorry, you guys.
Just don't be one of those guys that comment on live streams. That's too funny. That's perfectly okay. And on a live stream like this, I'm like, at least I'm talking about stuff that I'm knowledgeable about, and I'm in the industry of, not supposing what somebody else is doing behind closed doors in an office somewhere halfway across the country. Like I'm just don't care. Yeah.
So,
yeah, I'm probably going to have to take off too. I got a little job I've got to get done for tomorrow. So
you got work. Okay.
Yeah.
Just a little bit.
All right, man. Well, thank you for coming on. I really appreciate it.
Hey, thanks for inviting me. It was great seeing you guys.
Yeah, you too, Mike.
Definitely got to do this more.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
You know what I got to start doing, and I did it only I did it on and off a few years ago, was just virtual hangouts off the air, just hanging out, drawing, doing whatever, like hanging out, having studio hangouts. And
I mean, that would be good too.
That would be cool. I'd love to give that a try.
Yeah, absolutely. I'll reach out to you guys in the future when I have a free day or something.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
Well, I'm gonna sign off. So,
thanks again for coming on.
You guys take care.
All right.
You too. See you.
All right, JM.
It's just the two of us. I feel like I'm becoming the cantankerous old man with constant, like I'm just angry about everything.
Oh, that's been me for years. So
I wouldn't say I'm angry about it. I don't know. Life's too short.
Yeah.
But
no, I mean,
welcome back, Dylan.
Yeah. Oh, Dylan's back. It just must have just popped up. Welcome back, and we'll let the Davids argue about that.
I think commenting on live streams is fine. Don't get me wrong. I comment on stuff all the time. I just, I choose if it's innocuous or, in good fun or whatever, then I'll do it. If it's something that's going to be way too controversial, it's not worth the time.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, no, I agree.
So, yeah.
I usually, when I watch live streams, it's usually like I'll watch yours of you drawing, and I'll talk about what you're doing that I like or something.
Mhm. Yeah.
That's what.
Yeah, sometimes I'll go off topic on a live stream, though. I'm not gonna lie. The two guys live, yes. Yeah, well, the other two left. They had to work tomorrow.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
I got to work tonight. You had to finish. He said finish the project before tomorrow, I think.
Oh, do you?
Yeah, I don't know. I don't want to. I wouldn't want to do another job tonight. I mean, not that I'm not going to draw as soon as this ends. I'll probably go get into bed, throw something on my iPad to watch, or listen to and just sketch because I actually haven't drawn in 2 days. If I can today, it's driving me nuts.
Oh, well, if it makes you feel any better, I really haven't done any writing in about 6 months.
Oh,
Yeah.
wow.
Yeah. I mean, I have been working on my my languages for the Hadhiyana project and stuff, and I've kept up with some drawing, but shows have been so intense that some days, I mean, before I finally got the break, and I'm not going to be doing them as heavily now, but there were some weeks where I took 2 days off after the shows, where usually I would only take 1 day, and it would kind of be like half a day because I'd still wind up doing some work. Yeah. 57 shows.
I was saying you did a lot of shows last year. Are you planning to do that many again this year, or
no? I want to keep it to 2 to 3 average a month. Like, I know February looks a little packed because I think I'm doing like 4 and 1 virtual, but 2 of them are 1-day shows and one's virtual show. So it's not really that heavy, even though it looks like it. But yeah, I only want to stick to 2 or 3 a month if I can help it. I need weeks off. I can't be traveling as much as I did. So by the end of the year, 30 to 35, which still sounds like a lot, but most of my income is coming in from shows right now. If there are any people out there that want to hire a writer or an artist, because if I had more freelance gigs, yeah, that would be, I could offset it a little bit. But I'm also trying to build up the online income. I've been running ads with Daily Budget right now for both Darkfire Press and me. So I'm trying out some new things this year that will hopefully pay off. Maybe not immediately, but it'll hopefully help out.
And those are online stores like Etsy or something. What do you use?
Yeah, no, I have an Etsy. I started it actually in 2023 at the end of the year, like right before the holidays. And that's gone okay. I sell every month, but it hasn't been like crazy. It picked up over the holidays this year because I put out some of those T-shirts and people ordered that stuff. Yeah. Oh, Dylan's got to go. See you, Dylan. I don't know if I'm too late on that, maybe. So I have the Etsy, but even driving like the sales on Amazon and, like all the other, I mean, you're talking like digital. I do have my stuff available digitally too, whether it's Kindle or on Global Comics or whatever. And I'm trying to do the same for everybody under Darkfire Press as well, because that was another thing. My own projects kind of suffered last year, and Darkfire Press, I wasn't able to put as much time into it as I would have liked, So I'm trying to make some changes that I can still financially succeed, but also not do what I did this past year. It was a weird year, though. There were some really I had some of my worst shows last year, and then I had some of the best shows I've ever had. So it was like really up and down, and I kind of like panic registered for a lot of stuff. And then at some point it was just like, well, I'm doing this, so I might as well go all in and try out as many shows as I can and decide what's going to make the cut for the next year. So, yeah. And well, that's something else I'll say. Some shows are just not my audience. I don't want to say that they're a bad show. There's only one show that I did last year that I would say was objectively a bad show, and no one should ever do it.
I know
No one should ever. No, the promoter never, ever, ever. But other than that one, yeah, it just some shows just aren't in my audience, which is fine, but you kind of have to do them to figure that out. I mean, we've spoken. I seem to be doing really well at horror shows. And I will sell comics at horror shows. I will sell more comics at a horror show than I sell at a comic show sometimes, which is just like, I don't know what that's about, but
it's funny because I don't know if you're still listening or watching Christian. I had Christian on was a couple of weeks ago, and he was talking how he did the tattoo convention. How Fugitive Poems did the tattoo convention. It was one of the best shows. They found their audience at that tattoo.
Oh, I still want to do a tattoo show. Yeah.
Well, the same guy who puts on
Undiscovered Realm.
Did that one. So,
Yeah, I had a conflict. Otherwise, I would have registered for it.
Mm-hmm.
And the same thing with Undiscovered Realm this year. I can't say too much about it, but there is a big show that's more south that I have gotten the unofficial word I'm accepted for, but they haven't opened up tables, so I can't really say that I am. So I'm doing that instead of Undiscovered Realm this year, but I really wanted to be back at Undiscovered Realm because that was a good show for me.
It was a good show. Me and my friend Mike Lopez, we run the kids section there, so we'll be there again. Whatever the date is. So, but yeah, we'll be there, and that's in June. So right now, that is my only scheduled show for the year. I'm not. I want to start doing shows again, but I want to wait till I have product. And
David's right.
What?
I said David's right. I'm sorry. I'm listening to you and reading the comment at the same time.
I missed that. Fans are cool. Yeah.
That is exactly the fact. I don't know how to describe this, and I don't want to come off whatever, and I want you to finish your thought. Horror fans don't care. If they like it, they buy it. Mm-hmm. They don't care who you've worked for. They don't care what name you have. They don't it doesn't matter if it's a known property or whatever. That's cool. Okay. Take my money. It's different at a comic show,
Yeah. I mean, I've said that, I've never done a horror show. I've actually never been to a horror show because I'm not a horror fan.
No, see, I am. So it's so, yeah, I'm very comfortable in that space. Yeah.
I have ideas that I feel would fit a horror show, for art and comic stuff. So I don't know, maybe if I produce them, it might be something I'll look into. But I don't think, a lot of comic shows are for me. So I'm trying to find where my audience is. It might change with some of the work I do. I tend to, when I do the Wiz, it was all humor. When I've had other stuff in the past that, were superhero-esque type of stuff, and they sold pretty well when I did them many years ago. But like I said, I'm going back traditional. When I started doing shows in '97. And
wow, okay. You were 10 years before I started.
And I was doing everything traditionally. The biggest thing I did was maybe print up text and glue it into the book, so I didn't have to hand letter.
That was a short-lived thing for me.
Yeah, that might have been it. And that got annoying because then I had to measure everything out to make sure I had it as a nice even line so I could line it up in the book. But I did better when I was doing my work traditionally. When I started really studying comic art, and I'll say I've been studying art my whole life, but when I was in 8th grade, I grew up in a town called Mahopac, New York, and there was a couple of towns over as York, and there was a cartoonist. I mean, he had art classes in his basement. You want to learn to paint, he teach you how to paint, teach you whatever. I wanted to learn comics. He taught me how to do ink washes. So I did pen and ink and ink washes, and that's when I started at what are you, 12, 13 in 8th grade, something like that. So I started doing it, and that's what I was bringing to shows. And then when I started focusing more on humor and silly stuff and whatever, I stopped producing that type of work. And a lot of my sales started to go down, but I didn't want to do the ink washes anymore, you know? So, and
which is funny because now I'm starting to do ink wash underpaintings in my stuff.
And I think I might
feel it's.
I'm sorry, what?
No, I just feel like it's helping with enhance the dimensions of everything, you know, the contrast and values on the piece. But sorry, go ahead.
No, I was gonna say I'm not sure I want to get back into ink washes, like that's all I'm gonna do. And because you know it's I'm good, you know, more than 20 years later here, it may not be what people are looking for from me, but I'm going to start exploring it again. I'm going to start. You know, I've always said the computer is cold. You know, it's not the. I like getting dirty with my work, and I like ink on my hands. I like graphite, you know, and whatever, and I want to get back to that. I want to get back to what I love about creating, so that you know maybe the love will shine through in my work, and people will see that.
I have a possible suggestion for you.
Yeah, go for it, man.
Maybe as a marriage of the two, because I more recently, and I know it's getting further away in the distance of time at this point, but during the pandemic, there were two artists that I found. And one of them I should have been aware of for a long time. Eric Powell, who does The Goon.
Yep.
And then the other one is Steve Ellis. Both of those guys work traditionally, but they do, well, Steve Ellis does definitely more traditional and adds extra in with the computer. Eric Powell, like you were saying with your stuff before, it's all pencils, inks, and ink washes. And then he or somebody else colors it on the computer. And I think he only does that for expediency. I think everything that I've researched on him and seeing his posts and stuff on Instagram, I think he would much rather be painting every panel like I do. But, you know, he knows that it's not possible for him to get it all done, you know? So I remember we've had conversations about certain things that you felt were easier for you with color on the computer. Have you thought about doing those two combined, like doing pencils, inks, maybe washes, and then just throwing it into the computer to do the color part?
Well, color is being colorblind. Color's always been difficult for me. When you look at my work, it's always bright colors because that's what I see very well.
Right.
And I don't always think in that certain things I do should be bright colors. It's just that's what I see. So I was thinking to basically stay with grays in my work and play with that. I would if I, obviously if I have a cover, I'd want that color. But I don't know if I just want to go in and just drop flats over and let the washes kind of,
well,
shadows or whatever.
To a certain degree, and I always bring him up, but Mike Mignola does that. I mean, now he's been doing more watercolors, but like with his comic stuff, really it's not straight blacks. They just kind of enhance the blacks when they put it in, but they just throw flat or like very light gradients over the top. And some of those colors, especially in the early Hellboy series, those colors were pretty bright. It just had a lot to do with his the way he was using form and shadows that made it more of a darker comic. So you can still do it with bright colors. I just think you have to be creative about how you're doing the washes, and it could still work. I'm just trying to give suggestions that maybe will give you what you want, but
Well, listen,
stick to what you're able to, like, what's easier for you, right? So it doesn't become a struggle.
No, and I appreciate that. I've actually been studying his work lately. This holiday season, I got a lot of great, art books, and I was given, the Hellboy Artisan Edition here.
Oh yeah.
Okay. And so I was going through this over the weekend, just studying his inks and how he was doing them and stuff. And
well, I was just talking to a friend a couple of weeks ago, because not a couple of weeks. It's got to be 2 months. It must have been before Rhode Island, actually, because it was Chris. We were talking about different artists we admire, and he was like, "Yeah, you always bring up Mignola, but I don't really know his work, like how he structures things." And the way I described it was, I never got it when I was young. I always thought, oh, I could draw better than that, until I started studying it. And everything he draws, even though it looks like, oh, it's just heavy blacks, the way he understands form is almost like he had a piece of stone and chiseled the characters out of it. Yeah, like, that's really, it's 2D, but that's kind of how he's interpreting the forms a lot of times on the page,
I can see that. I mean, as I was looking through this here, one of the things I was, and I wish I could find the page right now, but
yeah, I have the artist edition of his Bram Stoker's Dracula with tops, because
that must be awesome.
Yeah, Dark Horse put that out, and it was, I have the artist edition and I have the regular collection, because I still have 1 or 2 issues of the Topps edition. Like, there are a few comics that I keep, and that's one of them. And I remember that was a piece of his that, I guess I was kind of fascinated with it to a certain extent, but I still wasn't making the connection between him and the, creator of some of the other stuff. Like, Hellboy was, I guess, out when I was kind of like in high school. And I still wasn't paying too much attention to it. But yeah, looking at his ink work is really good.
Yeah, I've been studying. I got over here, and I just want to. Then I'll get to David's comment. Outside of like the Alex Toth books, like Genius Illustrated, Genius Animated, and Isolated, I got the Hellboy here. I got Will Eisner's A Spirit, which I bought for myself, which just came the other day. I got David Mazzucchelli's Daredevil and John Romita Sr.'s Spider-Man.
Okay, so I gotta read Romita Jr.'s Daredevil, because I bought that. Chris had recommended it. I still gotta buy the Sienkiewicz Moon Knight, because I've never looked into Moon Knight, but he's such a big fan, so I was like, I'm going to read a quintessential Moon Knight, which is the one to do.
Well, I have him in, I got him in the Marvel Epic line, I believe, over there.
Right.
I got in the Marvel Essentials, those are the black and white, like the DC showcase I have Werewolf by Night, where his first, Moon Knight's first appearance was. I got, actually, those Marvel's, if you will, horror comics. I love those in black and white. That's like I have Ghost Riders. I think the Johnny Blaze Ghost Rider up there.
I have one Johnny Blaze, maybe 2 Johnny Blaze Ghost Rider comics, but I grew up reading the Danny Ketch years. And I have almost the entire series. There's a couple of issues I'm missing in it, but
wow.
I bought them in the comic shops, got back issues because I got into it a little bit into the run. And when Marvel had the mail subscription, I think I did that for like a year or 2 as well, Yeah. My brother was getting Amazing Spider-Man and I was getting Ghost Rider, because even back then, like I was never into the mainstream characters. Like, I always wanted the weird stuff,
Yeah. I mean, listen, my favorite Marvel character is Quasar. People have no clue who he is half the time.
Yeah.
But another book I wanted to show you, and I don't remember if I showed it to you. There was a convention. Tim gave me the pass to that one time we met up.
There's been a couple.
Tim was staying with you. And
Contropolis.
Contropolis. And there was this artist there, and I've heard of him, but never met him. And I always say his last name wrong because I'm bad with this. But Rudy D. Is it Nebres? This guy? I've been looking through this guy's book lately.
Oh,
I picked his autograph down there by him, but he has beautiful pencils. I mean, beautiful inks. This guy, I just been going through. He has a lot of like Tarzan. He worked on Zorro. That's actually what piqued my interest on him. Was he had a Tarzan and he had a Zorro piece out. And when I asked him how much the Zorro piece was, I would have had to like sell blood or something to get it. It was way too much.
Right.
And it was a small piece. It wasn't like it was, like maybe a 5x7. It was like $200. I'm like, yeah, no, that's not happening at a show.
Yeah.
So let's go to David. Who did he? I couldn't read the artist's name. So he goes, if I went back to traditional work, I'd like to attempt. How do you say that? Wanyos? I'm not familiar. I'm gonna look that guy up.
Bad Sad I've heard of, but I forget where or why. Like I don't know too much about it, but I definitely have heard the name.
I am sure. First of all, I am such a geek for, golden and silver age comic artists that I tend to look at those. But I'm going to look him up right now.
Black Sad. Okay, well done. Black Sad. Maybe I haven't done. Maybe I'm thinking of something else. Because Black Sad I haven't heard of. Sounds terrible.
I know his work. Okay. I wasn't familiar with the name. First of all, I'm
wondering what I'm thinking of now, but I want to look up this guy's work.
Yeah, I'm going to put it up on the screen if it lets me. So yeah, like this type of this guy here. I definitely know this. Well, actually, I think I saw a book of this when I was in Spain. In the bookstore I went into.
Funny thing, I have no idea what I was thinking of, but it definitely wasn't this because I have never seen this in my life.
Oh. No,
I have no idea.
It's interesting. I've never read anything or really looked at much, but the artwork has passed my eyes multiple times. Oh, this is the guy here, Wanjo, however you say. Ooh, I'm sorry, I won't even attempt it right now. But did it say he was a French artist? Spanish illustrator. Okay. That's probably why I saw his books in Spain when I went into the bookstore. All right, I'll definitely have to check him out and learn more about him. That's really cool. Thanks. I like learning about that stuff. So, all right, time we're at an hour and a half. We could wrap up, but if there's another topic you'd like to talk about, you have another kind of creative resolution for yourself this year?
Oh, I think I've got plenty. Do less shows and do more books, Yeah. I got to get that third hadhiyana out. And it's funny. I guess like a third thing could be I'm trying to figure out what will work for me besides the books and the comics, because I am doing so many shows, and I do know, although sometimes you can sell a lot of books, it's not always easy, so and the print market's nice, I don't mind it, but it kind of gets a little stale for me, so I'm trying to figure out some new merchandise strategies, but also new promotional strategies. So I guess those could be kind of other resolutions, figure out the scheduled post thing, see how these ads work and everything. Finish one illustration a week, post more, and build my online shop. One new illustration a week. I mean, I always try to give myself that kind of goal, and I hope you hit it though, David. I really do. I always just find projects get in the way, or that gets in the way of projects, yeah, it's tough. One a week.
And even though I didn't give that official resolution to myself, that was something that I, want to do within the work. Like I do want to build an online store this year. I've shown you things in the past, like there was that demon head I did that was red, and you remember I asked you about something. I could have put that on a mug in September, and then had sales for Halloween. And it's like I never did it. I'm lazy with that, or I was just tired, or whatever the reason is. And I'm like, I got to make better use of my time.
Yeah. Well. Yeah, but there is you can't burn out either. I mean, that's another thing I learned doing 57 shows is there's a limit to your energy, so it's almost like you kind of have to make decisions where it's like, if getting that stuff online is going to take you an extra 3 or 4 hours out of the week, you have to cut something else,
Yeah, no, I agree. The reason the Wiz stopped in 2019 when I started, we started in 2018, I think, no, 2019. And then in 2020, like I was doing shows. I was probably doing over 30 shows a year at that time.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of kids section stuff mostly, and other things. And there was one time between drawing the Wiz, between doing these shows, having a day job, trying to spend time with my wife, or just do my own projects or whatever, I ended up in the hospital. I ended up with pneumonia. And I said, something has to go. And I wanted to stop the shows, but I was committed and I couldn't look bad. And plus some shows that I would do like that paid us. So I couldn't say no to the money. And I couldn't turn away my day job because the shows didn't pay me enough to not have a day job. So I'm like, okay, I can't get rid of my day job. I can't stop these shows that I'm committed to. I have to, do whatever. And the Wiz, that's why the Wiz disappeared in 2019. Otherwise he might have been going on this whole time. I may have stopped him earlier. I may have, continued with him because I've done him for so long or whatever. But that's the thing. I had to focus on my health. I had to focus on making sure that my life wasn't consumed with art, and I had to take a break from it. And and then the pandemic happened. And whatever.
Yeah, pandemic. You were either like you, me, and a few other artists I knew, or you were Ray. Ray got a whole lot done. Other people got like nothing done during the pandemic.
I had so many plans, and then I got sick, and then that ended it all for me.
So for me, it wasn't. I've been more open to talking about it, but because I was fighting to stay home and stay safe at the district I was working in.
Yeah.
And to the district's credit, like the higher ups, the administrators, even though administration's the worst, they were still being pretty reasonable. But people in the town, and it's very political, they were like, we don't care. Put them in. This is before anything. They were like, they didn't want to hear it. We were just cannon fodder. So there were two things that happened during that time. I think the other one was, then I think I've talked about this. I was in a private Facebook group with comic shops and publishers and stuff. And the comic shops, some of them were pretty nasty. They were like, if we see you guys posting, like putting out anything digitally, you will never get in our shop. We will never order your comic. We will blacklist you. You'll go on a list. We're not ordering your comic because you're not going to support putting us out of business. It was like, okay, well, I guess I'm not publishing anything, and I didn't want to post too much because I didn't want to be fighting to stay home and keeping my family safe. And then the district is like, well, it looks like you're kind of working on your own stuff while you're home. You're not really teaching, even though I was working my ass off for the teaching job too. But so, yeah, those were two things that really affected things during the pandemic.
Yeah.
Changed my perspective when I got out.
No, it did. It changed. Actually, for me, it changed my perspective on how business can be done and educate. But I taught online way before so many other people did. I won't say I was a pioneer at it because it was going on way before I did. But let's see, I wasn't married yet, so I was dating my wife. So it was sometime between 2005 and 2008. I taught online at the Art Institute of Pittsburgh, and I saw through teaching there how the future of education could be. Now, I quit that job because we had a major snowstorm, and I couldn't. I was out of power. Like things like even McDonald's was closed. That's how bad the snowstorm was. It was bad. And I called and I said, I can't get online. I can't do this. And they're like, well, you committed to this. You have to go. They're like, drive to another town. I'm like, it hit this entire area. I'd have to drive like an hour, and I can't even get out because roads are closed and it's snow. And they're like, well, you have to do what you have to do to maintain your job. I basically told them, like, what job? And I quit. I said, I quit. See you later. I said, I'm not risking my life. I said, if you wait 3 days, I could fix stuff, and you can let the students. They wouldn't do that. So I just said, I don't remember how I said it, but I just said, yeah, no, I'm done. I hung up the phone. I said, you can take over my class. And I quit. But,
I have actually two somewhat related COVID teaching stories. I'm sure everybody finds this so much fun. I don't care. I've been so far out of it, I don't care. But anyway, yeah, one of them I remember, there was a particular administrator who I couldn't stand. He couldn't stand me, but he was giving us this big speech. Oh, you guys are the pioneers. You're going to change the way teaching is done. This is going to be the future of education. But big speech and I actually embraced that. Like, I really worked my ass off. Like, I don't often give myself credit for what I did while I was teaching, but that year I really felt like I was shining. No credit, but whatever. But the minute we went back into the building and everything was lifted, went right back to the old stuff. It wasn't even like, I was just thinking to myself, what about this pioneer shit?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I was like, this is effed. I can't keep doing this. I had a lot of reasons for leaving. But the other one was, and I swear, Michael, you're going to love this, because you're going to love it as it sets up, right? Now, I want you to understand that during the pandemic, we had history teachers, who I will excuse, that were also in the fine arts and music and technology. Keep that in mind. The technology teachers were in our thing. big text thread. Everybody in the department's in it. One day we wake up, right? Everybody's trying to get into Google. I can't log into Google. I can't. The phone's going off. Blah 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 blah. Somebody says, "Oh, the internet must be down at the high school." And one of the technology teachers chimed in and said, "Yeah, that must be what it is." And I was like, guys, you're all on your home networks. That's not how this works. It must be a problem with Google. Just railroaded right over me. No, it's got to be the high schools. They just insisted on that. A little bit later, we get a text from our department head. Yeah, Google's having some trouble. So, it'll be back up soon. And I just sat there like, who am I working with? Who am I working with?
But it's
I'm the art teacher and I know this.
Yeah, but it's interesting you say that, because when I was working at I forget what school it was, but it was a public school. I was working as a substitute teacher. I was new to the school that year.
Right.
And they, when we got back, everybody was on Microsoft Teams. Okay. Now I used Microsoft Teams professionally. I never used educational stuff. So I had to sit through a training on how to do this. And I'm like, I got there and everyone was amazed that I understood how to get through stuff. And I actually gave lectures. The school would have me do virtual lectures to other schools to how to use Microsoft Teams, because I ended up teaching, like, I was what they call a prep sub. So I gave the teachers their little prep break, and I would hang out with the students for 40 minutes, whatever it was. And when there was no prep, I'd hang out in a computer room or whatever, right?
Right.
So part of my job became, when I wasn't doing prep work, was going to classrooms and helping the instructors with Teams. And first of all, it was hysterical because it would crack me up. But I sat there not understanding why people couldn't just understand what basic basic Teams technology was. And I'm not making fun of anyone, because I came to the realization that when teachers go to school to teach, and I took some education classes, but I never became an official teacher. You're not taught technology. You're taught how to write papers. You're taught how to teach, when you do your
Oh yeah, no, I'm not faulting people for that,
no.
But I mean.
Yeah, no, I get what you're saying, but I'm saying
this
is the realization that came over me, was these people weren't trained in technology. They never had to think about that. It was pull out your notebook and take notes. It's here's a worksheet, open your book and read this chapter. It was never let's pull out a computer, let's pull out your phone, let's do whatever. And I'm like, the education system needs to change how they teach teachers.
I think it needs to change how they teach kids too. But
I know, but I mean that's something else.
Yeah, 100%. But I will say this, having worked in the school that I did. I mean, on one hand, a lot of the administration in the district I was in didn't want to move forward, so they would just take on what they could, like they had to. And a lot of the older teachers were like, I'm 3 years from retirement. I'm not learning this. I do not care. I'm not doing it. Like that was just their attitude. So it was like, I guess.
Yeah. No,
but another funny story, that we were given the choice. We could teach on Google Meets, or we could teach on, what was the other one? They started giving it away for free during the pandemic.
Well, there was, I mean, we use Teams. They use Google Meets, but I know there was I can't remember, because the school I worked with started on Google Meets and then they went to Teams. So
yeah, and I want to prep this with our classes. We had Google Classroom, Zoom. Yes, thank you, Sillyville, Zoom. So our classes were on Google Classroom. We had a grade book that was something else. Our administration was like Zoom or Meets. You could choose whatever one, but they really wanted you to use Zoom. And I use Meets. You know, far be it from me to stop trying to be the alternate on everything. But funny aside, like my administration was always like all politics stuff. They were always trying to get me on stuff. So I think they were always like questioning what I was doing, right? And it's like, well, I'm using Meets. Every time I went into a staff meeting, I would have multiple teachers. They would just be complaining. Oh, this kid's getting unruly during the meeting. I keep getting hacked. There's people coming into the meeting that aren't supposed to be there. And like, you know, they'll just like get on the mic or whatever. And I would just be in the staff meeting and be like, I'm using Meets, not having that problem.
Yeah, I think you know.
Because what would happen is, yeah, people would try to come into the meeting, but you'd see who's coming in, and I would just say no, and that would be it. You know.
No, you just got me thinking now of the videos of people turning the mics on when they shouldn't be, and things I've heard. And,
I didn't have any of those. I didn't have any of those problems. And I also didn't fight the kids a lot. Some people were really nitpicky. They were like, I will say that the administration wanted us like, everybody's got to be on camera and see your face. I personally saw like a invasion of privacy problem with it. Like I was very vocal at meetings saying like, listen, I don't want to see into their like houses, you know, like that just. So I didn't make them show their faces or whatever. I was like, if you want to point it at the ceiling, I don't care. You know, well, I'm going to know if you're doing the work if you hand it in. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And there is an attendance that's taken in Google Meet, so that was easy. I was just like, yeah, I had no trouble.
Our thing was the camera had to be. That was the big thing. You couldn't have the camera off.
Yeah, well, that's why but. And I would do demos. They got us a nice hover cam. I would do instructional videos in advance. So I was working like extra to make all these instructional videos. And then I would still demonstrate during class, you know, answer questions. I don't know. I had a good time.
Let me ask you, since you do, you just mentioned what you were doing, and you have your live stream you do where you draw live.
Right. I do not use the school's.
No, you do not use the school's thing. That I'm sure that was given back.
Yeah.
It's but since you enjoyed that type of stuff, have you thought about doing any like tutorial videos to just whether it's to put up on YouTube or to sell on Gumroad or?
Somebody's owes me a intro.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I need animation, so I'm so sorry. You know, I feel bad.
No, it's okay. I actually, but yeah, I have thought about it.
Well, there goes me staying up with my stress and anxiety.
No, I'm sorry. I'm not in any rush because like I'm not looking for like YouTube content creation to be like my main job.
No, I get it.
And actually, as it is right now, with how heavy I went on the shows and how much I have to scale back to get work done, I'm like, how much video content, like how often would I want to be pumping that out? So
yeah,
I have a couple of videos that are like started, you know, but yeah, it would be good. Even if it's not for like a monetary thing, I've found that I just did it on Tuesday yesterday as well. I did Whatnot, but I just drew on Whatnot instead of trying to sell stuff the whole time. I had a whole bunch of other people tuning in and just like wanted to ask me questions about drawing and stuff like that. And I was like happy to do that. So I don't know. I don't mind giving away information for free because who knows how they're going to use it or whatever. And if it can help people, you know, yeah. I don't feel like I have to monetize everything I do.
Yeah. No, I get that. And now I got to get an animation software in me here somewhere. That's the only reason I'm behind, man.
No, it's okay. I actually, speaking of things that we have to get to and other projects. I know this is another thing that's going to totally throw me off, but I have been thinking about doing 3D sculpts to then 3D print, you know.
Now
When
you're
it came
talking
to,
like in the 3D software, right?
yeah, I downloaded Blender. I mean, I worked with Maya for 4 years, and yeah, it's been 2 decades since I worked on it, but I could brush up on that knowledge and try to sculpt some things. I'm just trying to think of, like, again, new products that might be appealing to people. But I don't want to, because I know artists and I know vendors, and vendors are like, just buy something and paint on it. And I'm like, no. I'm still an artist. I want to have my hand in it. So if I'm going to do it, I'm not very good at sculpting with clay. I'm going to have to get a 3D software and like build the actual model that I'll have somebody print out, and then I can hand paint them or whatever. Because then at least it's my work. But yeah, I still have to play around with that because, there's other projects I want to do.
I'm trying to teach myself Blender right now, but I keep watching videos and then going away because I hate 3D. I used to enjoy it, and then I started like, oh, I can't do this.
So that's a weird thing, right? And it's this odd reason. I didn't like animation enough. Otherwise, Nomad for iPad. I don't have any Apple products.
I actually have Nomad. I just haven't explored it enough yet. I believe that's what I have. I downloaded. I'll check right now while you talk. Go ahead.
So, oh man, I lost my train of thought because of the Apple product.
Oh, I said I hate 3D.
Oh yeah, so there's a funny thing, right? When I was in school for computer animation, I wanted to get into video games. When it came to animated movies, I preferred 2D animation. I thought 3D sucked. Like I never saw Toy Story because I can't look at that stuff. I just think it never looked good. So I almost wanted to try to fight for the cause of, hey, these video game developers are making these really cool looking 3D models and they're working with textures more than trying to, like, in ways that are interesting and more artsy rather than trying to make it look realistic. Of course, now the games are trying to look realistic. But I'm thinking, like, visually, that works better. Why are you trying to get 3D to look like something real? Why don't you just use it as a different medium and try to make it look like good 3D? So, I feel like, well, just like I'm doing in comics, I'm not trying to do them like mainstream art. Like, if I had stuck with animation, I would have been trying to do like not what the big studios are doing with 3D.
3D.
Yeah. I'm just always going to be a rebel without a cause on this stuff. Are you still alive, or is this a replay? We're still alive, Layla.
Live. I don't know how much longer we're going to be up. We're almost at the 2-hour mark. But David, yes, I do have the program. I played with it once and I never went to it again. I have to. I'm one of those people. I need to sit down and just be like, okay, today I'm doing this, and I will focus all my energy on learning. Like when I learned After Effects, I mean, sure, it was much easier at the time to learn it, but I picked up, I just had one of their books. I think it was like one of those Adobe Classroom in the books back then. And I read through the whole book. I did it was like 10 chapters. I started at like 9, 10 in the morning. And I remember by the nighttime, I knew After Effects.
Wow, I'm going to sound like a big jerk about this. This is how I learned After Effects. I needed to edit an animation I did at Pratt. I went to the studio area. The student overseeing the area at that hour let me in. And they're like, yeah, you probably want to use After Effects. And I'm like, oh, okay. And I opened it up and I just started figuring it out.
Yeah, I mean, I think I could like with Photoshop. I remember being in class on the first day. The instructor showed what every tool did in the toolbar,
Mm.
and then I never paid attention again. It was
Oh,
like
yeah.
I said, just tell me what the job does, and I'm
No,
you know.
and I get that, but I can tell you when, at least at the high school level, when I was teaching kids Photoshop,
Oh, what happened? Mm.
and it's not their fault. I just feel like they weren't used to it. I grew up, I knew where things like file and edit were on the screen on every friggin' program.
Yeah,
I would say, all right, go up to file. What do you mean? What do you mean file? And it's like, oh my God, the phones. You have no idea how to use a computer, do you?
yeah, yeah. That's
And it would have to be like really like I was teaching my 70-year-old grandmother. Like it was just like, oh no.
I had college students like that, where it's like go up to file, where at the top of the screen, top left of the screen. No, not there. Over more. Over. That's how I'd be.
It was tough because, and again, I don't fault them because they are kids, and
Yeah.
they're learning on the phone. But I was almost like, oh right, this is the technology generation. They're gonna. I don't have to waste time on like little things. Let's just get right into it. And I was like, well, I was sorely mistaken. they need they need all of this.
Yeah.
I have to go through the toolbar one by one. you know.
I want to comment here on David's thing. Realistic 3D movies like The Lion King are such a. First of all, I'm going to 100% agree with that. But I want to say this. I am sick of Disney making what they call live action when they're just computer generated remakes of their old animated films.
Yeah, I'm not a fan of it either. I've seen a few. It's not it's I understand that they're updating it for like a modern audience, but I just feel like because I forget I saw Beauty and the Beast, right?
Mm.
Um and that was just like a straightforward and I it's not that it was like poorly done. I was just like I don't know though, but we have the animation. What do I need this like shot for shot redo of it in live action, you
Yeah.
know?
Well, I feel the company doesn't believe in their own work. That's animation is what made Disney, what made them famous.
Yeah, but this happened, Michael, when I was going to college.
Mm.
So I know for a fact, and I say this because there were some professors. That was during the big layoff time. There were some really bitter professors working at Pratt that were just like, listen, if you guys go work somewhere, you take all your sick time, all your vacation time, you back up everything you got because they will just kick you out. And they were people that worked for Disney. They were so mad and
Yeah,
they were just bitter and telling us just how awful the work world was going to be for us.
yeah.
Pratt was, it was terrible when I was going. That was when every major company was laying off.
Well,
DC, Magazine, everybody.
when I started or was getting into the industry, so I started as a character designer for this educational video game company. It was in Terrytown uh, when I was 18. That was my
Right.
first like professional job, and um, I learned a lot on that job. But at that time, what studios were doing were stopping full time employment. So, like the major
Mhm.
companies out west were stopping full time employment and hiring freelance. So they didn't have to pay benefits. They didn't have to pay. They paid better, so you can pay for your own benefits.
Right.
You weren't sure if you were going to have a job afterwards, which is the main reason, due to my health issues, I never went out to California to see if I could make it there. Now, I will say when I was 18, I would have flopped out in California, but I
Right.
think by the time my skills matured, by the time I was like 25,
Right.
26, I probably would have had a chance.
It's, I'm sorry. It's funny you mention all this because just to give you a time, I started the week of September 11th. This was 2001 September, and I graduated in May 2005.
Okay.
So social media was new, but professors were still telling you to like send out mailers, never email an editor. It was just unprofessional. Like I said, there were a bunch of layoffs at Disney, Mad Magazine, DC Comics, you know. And the other point you just made about freelancing, right? I remember when I first got out of school, and you know, I had a girlfriend at the time, and my parents, they were pretty supportive, but after a very short period of time, they were like, you know, kind of like, when are you going to find a job? And I'm like, I don't think you understand. I said, I'm looking. They don't exist. I can work freelance on a project, but like, there's no full-time illustrator jobs anymore. They just don't exist. Yeah. And like, I was getting out of school where all the advice was go do this thing. And by the time I got out of school, it was completely different. So everything I was trained to do and given advice on was basically like a dying model as I was getting out of school.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I could see it because when I got into school, like I said, it was '94 when I went to college. The computers were within the last year or so was really being integrated into the industry with graphic design or whatever. I mean, I know computers have been in animation for a while, but like I did a lot of graphic design work, and the main reason I got hired at a lot of places was because I knew the computer and but I was also still being taught traditional methods. I had both, you know, paste up experience and, you know, learning Quark, you know, if you remember.
Yeah. Well, for what it's worth, I did take a traditional animation course with some of my extra credits just because, you know, I figured if I'm going to learn the 3D stuff, I should really learn the traditional stuff. I enjoyed that class too. You know, it's good.
Yeah, no,
we did everything: claymation, stop motion, like with paper cutouts, kind of like old South Park style.
Yeah.
Like hand drawn, you know, with the pegboard and everything, you know. So.
Sounds great. I never got into the claymation, so I tried it. I experimented with it on my own. I just never.
It was one project. It's actually, my brother always talks about that one. That was just his favorite one. That, even though I don't think I'm great at clay, it was just very expressionistic. And I was, you know, commuting to the school every day. So I did this little animation and like all this gray and white clay of this guy about to get on the bus, just looking absolutely miserable. And my brother is like, I don't know what you did, but I could feel everything that guy was thinking in that claymation. He's like, it just was so express, and it was nothing. It was just like two little thumbprints and a mouth, and you know, like.
Hey, listen, you got it working. It doesn't take much to show expression if you know how to do it. You know.
Right. Even the walk, I had to tilt the guy to one side and just let the clay piece like sit just enough that I could take the picture before he like fell over, and then move him to the other side. So he just kind of like waddled down the street because I wasn't going to do like a walk cycle with the legs. He was like, yeah, I don't know, the whole thing just worked.
Yeah. I'd love to see it if you have it digital.
That's the thing is I still have to, you know, and of course we're getting further and further down the line. I have it on just a little, one of those mini cassettes.
Yeah.
I have to find a place that could actually like transfer that stuff onto digital. I would just upload them on YouTube. I mean, they're not going to be anything special, but it would just be cool to share them. Yeah.
That's awesome. Hold on, let's see. I wanted to get to David's. Oh, I think you mean Runaway Train style, but it's been one of their best shorts. It is. You know, I actually am a fan of, and I know not a lot of people like it, but the newer Mickey Mouse shorts that they did. I can't think. There was a Mickey Mouse, I think, called Mickey Mouse and Friends or something. Or
I've seen some of them. They kind of feel like a lot of animations these days, where it's just like fireworks and loud noises constantly.
I'll tell you, I feel like it was Looney Tunes humor with a attempt at a classic Disney style.
Right.
Oh, hold on. You said it's called Runaway Brain. Disney made it and banned. I never saw that then. I know Runaway. I know like isn't Runaway Train the short they did? Wow, Runaway Brain. I know what I'm looking up right now.
Yeah, I am going to look it up too. Runaway Brain.
Oh no, I know exactly what you're talking about. I just saw it's a 7-minute short. Oh wait, no, that's not it. It's a 1995 short. I actually spoke on. I think we talked about this a while ago with Michael Cook, who does the Chucky Chicken animations. I think he mentioned this as one of his favorite shorts. In an attempt to convince Minnie that he hasn't forgotten to buy her an anniversary present, Mickey Mouse ends up promising to take her to Hawaii. All right, I know what I'm looking up to watch, and I'll find somewhere. I'm assuming if it's banned, it's not on Disney Plus. Oh, you'll send me a link? Oh, okay. I believe I've watched this a while ago, maybe when it originally came out. But yeah, no, I'm familiar with this one. I don't remember anything about it, but I'm familiar with the artwork, and it was a nice how do I put the style down? I mean, it's basically Mickey from what the I'd say like the 40s or 50s style, just updated to fit the 1990s.
Yeah, I mean, I've seen some of them because when my nieces were a little bit younger, they would watch it.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's so, I mean, I feel like it gets brought up every now and then. It's kind of, I would say, the overarching issue that I have with Disney right now is I feel like companies don't have to be so big where they do everything.
Yeah.
Like they were fine with just Mickey and princesses and all that stuff. They could have just stuck to that, and I think it would have been fine. They had their Touchstone Pictures for a bit when they kind of wanted to branch out and do something a little different. But I think Disney being the house of all creativity, it's just like I don't know. I don't want any company to be that. Yeah.
Well, I think the problem is they bought Star Wars and all the Lucas stuff. They bought Fox. They bought all these things, and now they have too many properties.
Yeah, but I feel like let me put it this way: I feel like what is their brand at this point?
Yeah,
their brand used to be family-oriented stuff, and that was fine. There's always a market for it.
Yeah.
I don't know. And I would say that about any company that decided, it would be like if Legos started producing hot dogs. It's like, what are you guys doing? Why hot dogs? Why? Because people like to eat hot dogs. You're Lego.
Yeah, exactly. And that's what I was going to say though, is that they have too many brands that they're focusing on that they don't remember who they are and what they create.
Right.
And that's where I was going to go, that they used to do family entertainment. That's what they were known for. And
Right.
I'm not saying they're not creating family oriented films anymore, but they're not the same. I used to say the worst Disney movies are still better than a lot of other movies that are out there. Now I can't say that anymore.
Yeah, well, it's just because, I mean, Marvel still kind of exists as its own entity, but it's like, I remember when that happened, I was like, why does Disney own Marvel? I still can't wrap my head around it. It's just like,
and Disney
why?
books didn't even go out under Marvel.
Right, and it's the same thing with Star Wars. I mean, love or hate what they're doing with it right now. It's just overall, the concept in my head is just like, why does Disney own Star Wars? What does that have to do with Mickey Mouse and Disney princesses and even the Great Mouse? Like, why the hell do they own Star Wars?
Yeah. Yeah,
I don't care if it was another person half as competent. It's just like that just doesn't seem like their brand.
Yeah.
Again, it's like Legos with the hot dogs. It's just, I mean, I feel like it's just bringing two things together that there's absolutely no reason why they should be.
Yeah, but I feel Disney and we'll get off Disney in a second, but I feel it's the same thing with the Muppets. They bought the Muppets.
Oh God, the Muppets. Because you gotta understand, I love the Muppets. A Muppet comes on screen, and I am cheery as hell. Like nothing gets me happier than a Muppet. And I feel like they don't do anything with it.
Yeah. But also all their movies or anything they produced, I really haven't liked too much. I mean,
I like the Jason Segel one.
No, I agree with that. I was just about to say, but I think the Haunted Mansion one they just did, I guess it was last year or whatever.
I didn't see it. Yeah.
I think that is the most actual Muppet story. Like you get the feel like Jim was actually part of it in the writing and in everything that's going on. It felt the most Muppet like, and they've owned them since the 90s.
It's funny because we just watched a Muppet Christmas Carol, and I love that film.
It's one of my favorite Muppet films, and what bothers me is I watched it on Disney Plus, and they cut out the song "A Love Is Gone."
Maybe they did.
No, because I remember.
I don't know it. Like, it's one of those things where it refreshes as it plays because I don't watch it like every year kind of thing. But yeah.
Oh no, I know that movie by heart. Like I can say it line for line if I have to. I just sometimes need the music cues to go.
Yeah.
But there was a song, and it's one of my favorite songs in there. It's called "When Love Is Gone," and I think her name is it not Clara? Clara is the other one. Belle. And Scrooge is in the past, and he meets he sees Belle, and the ghost says there was another Christmas with her, and he's like, please don't show me that. And then they go to it, and they have their conversation, and he says, I love you, Belle, and she says, I did once, and that's where they cut it. But in the original theatrical and on the DVD, which is the one I need to continuously watch now, is she starts singing a song called "When Love Is Gone," and he cries, she tears up, Rizzo and Gonzo are crying.
I kind of remember that. Yeah,
it is such a great scene.
It's funny that you mention that because I remember. So because the Muppets have been neglected. Yeah.
Yeah.
It was good. Oh, good.
And then he says, dude, still heartbroken.
Yeah. But it's funny you mention that because when I watched it, and it was only like a week ago or whatever, like it was after Christmas, but it's still, we put it on. I remember when I saw that scene this time, I didn't remember the song or anything, but it's just like that cut really short. Like he really wants to leave the area, but it didn't feel like there was a definitive resolution to the scene. It just kind of was like, yeah, I did once. That doesn't really say that they're breaking, like, it didn't really like hit it home enough like a lot of the other scenes. And I was kind of like very abrupt, but I just kind of like passed it over. But now that you're mentioning it, it's like, oh yeah, well that would have sold it a lot better,
And I think it was Jeffrey Katzenberg when he was still in charge of the studio there. He thought that piece brought the film down or cut the film. But I mean, like, I remember watching the original, and I'm talking like old school black and white, like one of the first sound versions of this, and they had a long piece with her, and it wasn't a song, obviously. It was a make, and And I'm like, they took so much out. Like even in the school, when you in the original, because it's been a while since I read the book, so I don't know what changes were done. But in the original video, there's even a part where he's in the past, and his sister comes to pick him up and said, "Dad has changed." So he goes back home. And here they're just like, "Oh, he never goes home for Christmas," and that was kind of it. And that he grew up basically in the school and he never saw his family. Like,
Right.
time where Christmas became fun for him as a kid, and you don't see that. I get it. You had to cut it for the movie, probably.
Yeah, I mean, it does happen, but it's funny that I got, when I was in college, I would often rent DVDs with my girlfriend at the time, and we would watch the deleted scenes. And every once in a while, you'd be like, yeah, it didn't really need that. But then you'd see a scene that was like, why did they cut that?
Exactly.
Now everything just made a whole lot more sense.
Yeah.
It's like, I understand you got to cut for time, but that was a minute 15 that could have been very useful.
Exactly, which is why I only watch the extended editions of Lord of the Rings.
Yeah, I mean, how do I put it? The theatrical cuts, though, are good, though.
Well, I mean, that's what made me fall in love with the movie, were the theatrical. It's just
right.
The extended versions came out, I'm like, I don't feel I can watch it any other way.
Oh, I get it. I mean, he still couldn't fit everything in, but yeah, they definitely had a lot more. I mean, the biggest thing is when I read the book, because I was reading them, I tried reading them once before, but I really read them like as the movies were coming out. But I was halfway through The Return of the King when The Fellowship came out, so I consider that I was basically through it. Maybe I hadn't fully reached the halfway point, because I wasn't at Frodo's thing, because it wasn't until I don't know. Anyway, whatever.
Yeah.
It's really not that important, because basically, when I got through The Return of the King, I was like, oh my God, I cannot wait to see the mouth of Sauron on screen. I'm like, oh man, they cut him. And then of course I saw the deleted scene. I was like, all right, at least they filmed it.
Yeah.
I just, the way it's described in the book, I always find sometimes the the stuff that's just like subtly described, and it doesn't get a lot of attention, sometimes can be the most interesting.
Yeah.
And I just remember my imagination going wild with that character.
And that's why everyone always says the book is better than the movies. I mean, and this is something I've always said too, and I'm not saying like books are better, but I always, I would prefer to listen to music than to go to a concert. I'd prefer to read a book than to watch the movie.
Yeah.
Excuse me, right away. Same thing, like I'd rather, because my imagination is telling me the story, and I get to use it as opposed to someone else telling me the story. And like, I'll say this about Lord of the Rings. I never had a chance to read it before the movie came out. I grew up with a reading.
Oh, I figured you did. Oh
no. What happened was I grew up with a reading issue. I tried to read the book when I was younger. And in Tolkien, you've read it, obviously. He's a very dense, and very, long-winded writer. And so it threw me off a lot. And I've tried to read it a couple of times. So it takes me a while to get through an actual book. Which I don't read many of them these days. Then the movie came out, and I fell in love. Like I had an idea of the story, but I didn't know the story completely. And then the movies came out, and I tried to read the books again. Still had some trouble, but I got through I'd say I got further, almost completed the first book. Then I found audio copies, and I just listened. But they're so freaking long that it took me a long time to get to, because I'd fall asleep.
Yeah.
And a few years ago, I don't know how many years ago it was, but I found on YouTube, Andy Serkis reads the book, and he does voices while he's reading it.
Yeah.
It's so much better. So like every now and then I'll put that book on because I've never gotten through all of them completed yet, audio wise. Even I need to get through Return of the King.
I get it. So, oh man, that's funny. You're talking about falling asleep. Don't get me wrong, I would fall asleep a lot of times, but I still distinctly remember it was like 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning one day, and I got to the Mount Doom chapter, and you know it just says Mount Doom, like that's the chapter heading, and I remember it's the only time a book ever had me do this. I got up, I put like my fists in the air. I was like, yes. I'm like thinking they finally got to Mount Doom. And then I just 2, 3 o'clock in the morning, I was like, all right. And I sat down and I kept reading for another like 2 chapters.
Wow.
I was like, yeah. I got so into them. I was reading them once a year. I was reading the Silmarillion, the Hobbit. I read one of the biographies by Humphrey Carpenter. Like I was super into it. And I had a bunch of friends that were also writers that gave me a lot of shit for liking it. So eventually I just kind of was like, all right, I guess I'll read some other stuff. But it was, yeah. I knew the stuff, God, so well. I still know a lot of it, you know. I always say, though, like if I went up against somebody like Stephen Colbert, I don't think I could hold my own, but close. I get really close with him, you know.
Oh no, I'm nowhere near that. I do. One of the things I watch on YouTube a lot is Tolkien lore. I'll just listen. Not just Tolkien. I listen to a lot of stuff, but like I'll have my bouts where it's just 2 or 3 days straight, and all I'm doing is listening to Tolkien's information. Whether it's Lord of the Rings, it's The Hobbit, it's another character, whatever the hell it is. It's just these are the stories. This is how the world works, and I just watch all of them.
Well, there's another weird thing about me, right? I only wanted to keep to at least what's traditionally considered the canon, which includes the Silmarillion, even though there's some debate about that. I didn't want to read any of the history of Middle Earth because I was like, oh, that's all the stuff he threw away. I don't want to read that stuff. But then as I got older and I learned more and more about it, I'm like, oh man, you know, like I have to get all those books. I've read a couple of them.
Yeah.
And actually, like some of the stuff that he didn't, at least that Christopher Tolkien didn't put, like he chose, you know, some stories over some others. Some of the alternate versions of certain stories are like really interesting, you know, and some of them are even less, some of them are more surreal. Like, I don't want to say too much or whatever, but like when the race of men first come into Middle Earth, there's a way it's portrayed in the Silmarillion where, like in one of the Book of Lost Tales, right? The story is different. It's like one elf just goes into this cave and sees all these like creatures that are just kind of sleeping, and he kind of freaks out because it's like, what the hell? And apparently it was like the first men, but like nobody even knew where they came from. There was just like, it was just more ambiguous. And I always feel like that is infinitely more interesting, you know, like not knowing like the whole creation of it.
Yeah.
So yeah, I don't know. There's some alternate versions that are really good, but I could understand why Christopher Tolkien would feel like certain things didn't like narratively fit. Like, you know, because he was trying to get a cohesive version together. Can't fault him for it, you know.
Not at all. I'm just looking here. You know, wow, we are coming up to 11:30 right now.
You started talking about Tolkien. I could go 2 more hours on that.
Yeah, I can't. I do have to get up early tomorrow. We did go off topic anyway. We're supposed to be talking about resolutions, but we did enough.
Well, we did, but everybody left at an hour.
I know. Actually, they left. About an hour and a half ago. They all
yeah. And then we talked a little bit more resolutions, and it was like COVID and teaching, and then Disney, and then we got on Lord of the Rings. There was some other stuff sprinkled throughout.
We we'll definitely do a Lord of the Rings day, and you could also talking about long stories of Game of Thrones is ever going to get. Actually, I heard he's not going to write an ending. I think.
Well, actually, yeah, I've read a couple of articles on it. I have opinions
Mm.
on the fan base of A Song of Ice and Fire. Um, you know, yes, George R. R. Martin could be more on top of it, but I feel like the people that are fans of these books created their own problem. I don't know. Like, if people were constantly attacking me and hassling me about, and like, um, I don't want to say derogatory because they haven't been like that bad. But if they were really giving me shit about like finishing a book, I don't know that I would finish it either. Like, I got to be honest. I might just be like, but from what I understand, seeing him in interviews, he seems to sometimes be a very anxious guy. And I don't know that they haven't given him a little bit of cold feet about like finishing it, because it's like, he said it, like he doesn't know what he would do to make anybody satisfied anymore. And I feel like the fan base has just been too hard on him. I'm like, just let the guy write, and STFU, it's like,
Yeah. I was actually just going to say something like this. He's made millions off the stuff. He really doesn't need to write an ending anymore.
Right.
And I've said this. I wasn't a fan of the show. The world building wasn't there for me. Maybe if I read the books, I would enjoy it more.
They're good. What he does is incredible because he can very much get into very different characters' heads and make them a believable different character from another character he writes. But I wouldn't say world building wise it's on par with Lord of the Rings.
Yeah. Well, I didn't. I know I didn't expect that, but I just felt like, because I never read the book, but in the show I just felt like it was off, even in season 1, and that's why I didn't continue. I watched like the first or second episode of season 2, and then I was done with the show. My wife watched it completely, to the end, and she told me a lot what happened. And not that I cared, but it just wasn't there for me. And I'm a fantasy fan. It doesn't have to be Lord of the Rings for me. It doesn't have to be Conan or what. I want a good fantasy story. And I think the fight scenes were fantastic. I think they had good choreographed fight scenes. I think, they had some good moments in there, but it wasn't a good story overall to me.
So I'm pickier about my fantasy. Like, if I start getting too many cliches, I start getting really irritated.
Yeah.
There's some, especially one famous, newer fantasy author that I just can't stand. I think he's just absolute poop. That's is garbage writer. But everybody that's fans of his loves him, and he has a big output. But I like George R. R. Martin's writing. I don't love it. But I will say this. You're saying about the story. George R. R. Martin, and I don't know if he ever was to finish it, if he would tie up a lot of loose ends, but there's a lot of times where he will get a story going and then just some character gets killed and it's like, oh, I guess I'm not going to find out about that. Like, and I almost feel like him not finishing the series is like the biggest George R. R. Martin move. Because there's so much stuff in the books where you're like, oh yeah, that was the only character that knew about this. All right. Or they were the only one that saw this thing that happened, off like page at one point, or, this person seemed like they were an important part of some thing that I want to know about. Yeah, and it just like lots of threads would be dead with characters that die. And I understand that that's kind of how it works in real life. To some extent, you don't always find answers to everything, and he does that. But man, as a reader, it's like, I'm investing a lot into this to not get these payoffs, man. Like, it does get a little bit obnoxious sometimes.
Yeah. Like I said, it's one of those things where I'm willing to look for an audiobook, but knowing there's no ending to the story, I don't even want to start it.
Yeah, I fortunately read them after the first season, so I got all 3 books in, and the 4th one came in at some point during that, so I read the 4th. Yeah, there's some characters I would have liked to see because they were continued more in the books than they were in the series. But, I mean, I don't have a great love for it like I do with other series, so it's not like I'm going to be, this isn't going to tear me up inside. But I have some friends and some acquaintances that are really into it. The one, because I had never read them before, there's a video game translator that I've casually kind of known over the internet for years because I sent him some fan mail once. And I was going back playing one of the games he had translated, and I was like, wait a minute. There are a lot of Song of Ice and Fire references in this translation. So I emailed him. I'm like, because he usually was translating work for a specific video game designer who had similar themes in his stuff. Much better storyteller, in my opinion. I was like, is he a Song of Ice and Fire fan? Because I knew they were translated into Japanese because there's beautiful cover artwork available online for the Japanese versions. And he's like, no, I've been trying to get him to read them for years. He finally is reading a Game of Thrones now. It just happens that he has a lot of the same stuff in it. But because I've been translating it, yeah, I threw out, this was a reference, that was a reference, like he would sprinkle it throughout. I was like, oh my God, and I never even knew. And he's somebody I think of often. I'm always like, I wonder how Alex is feeling about the fact that George R. R. Martin is not going to finish this now, because he's been reading them since they came out.
Yeah. Wow. I don't know, and it's interesting. There's a lot of great stuff out there that could be good. That I don't know, I was talking to my wife about this the other day, and I'm sorry, I'm sidetracked. I'm starting to zone out in my head here.
I'm sorry, I'm keeping you up.
No, I'm starting to get a little, but we were talking about it last night because I actually watched a history of Conan.
Oh, okay.
YouTube video, and it talked about him, from the books to the comics to the films, the animated series, the live action, all the stuff, and what's going on, and it just got me thinking about the fantasy genre and how there's so many great things out there. And I started saying a few things which I can't remember now, just naming a few characters and titles, and I'm like, and she had no clue who it is or what it is, and she likes fantasy stuff too. So I'm like, we gotta I don't know, I just want to see fantasy. I don't know, I just want to see good. I've always said I want to see good stories, but I want to see good fantasy stories right now. Even over sci-fi, I'm a good sci-fi fan too, but I just want to see good fantasy stuff right now.
Well, it's funny you say that because I'm weird about this, right? I will, for the most, there's probably only 10-15% of horror that I think is just stupid and worthless. Mm-hmm. Including The Lost Boys. I know a lot of people like it, but when it comes to fantasy, I feel like there's only 8% of it that's any good.
Yeah.
And that's terrible because I really like the genre. I love knights, love dragons, elves, all this. Dwarves are some of my favorite characters in fantasy.
Yeah.
But yeah, I just feel like there's a lot of bad stuff out there, so I've always been trying to find better and better stuff. I have some luck, but yeah, sometimes people will recommend a writer. 2 examples were Michael Moorcock. Oh, 3 examples. There was some guy, Wagner, he wrote the Kane stories, which were they were after Conan, but they were kind of similar.
Yeah.
Did not care for those. Michael Moorcock, I heard so many great things about him. Really didn't find him that good. the other writer I was mentioning just now, indirectly, but I'll just say it is Brandon Sanderson. Like, he's like blown up like crazy, and I just think god awful writing.
I've never really watched some things recently about him because people are making YouTube videos right now.
Oh yeah, no, and people love him, and I will give him credit that he came up with the term hard and soft magic systems, which kind of is a, kind of reusing the idea of like hard and soft sci-fi, like science and sci-fi.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, like, oh my god, just like tragically bad writing. It's all of the characters are like paper cutouts, and there's a bunch of his background that I know about too that I'm just kind of like, that could be why. And honestly, like, it just doesn't make for great writing. It really doesn't.
Yeah, but I mean, if you go just to like fantasy movies, or I don't know if you want to call them horror or whatever, a lot of people are just buying up rights to books because they think they can make a trilogy. And
it's funny that I didn't think about it until much later because somebody kind of said it offhand, but I almost feel like that's what happened with Hadhiyana when I was with my old publisher. That, not that they thought they were going to turn it into a trilogy necessarily, but there was a little bit of this sense that, because I wasn't the only one that he didn't do stuff with his books. I keep in contact with some of the people that used to be part of it. But it was almost like he was buying up stuff that he thought, well, maybe this could take off, so I might as well have it so I can do something with it, and then he wouldn't do anything with it. It's like, but the same thing you're talking about. Like, they're just buying up rights to stuff, and it's like, then it just sits. There could be somebody else that actually wants to make it and make it good, and it's not going to get anywhere because, the studio's like, well, let's wait 5 years. We got this like 10-year contract. Maybe it'll be popular, like.
Yeah, I mean, well, those type of things go through phases. At one point it was like the Harry Potter wizards, then it was, whatever. What was it? The Anne Rice vampires. Then it was Harry Potter. Then it was like Twilight. Then it was whatever. Like, all these things come in phases, and whatever type of character or creature will become popular. I think that's why they do it. They like wait to see what's going to come through the years.
Yeah, of course, but it never quite works out. I've heard good things about Rick Riordan and like the Percy Jackson books and everything.
Mm-hmm.
But those were becoming popular around the time that Harry Potter was popular.
Yeah.
And I don't think he did this at all. I think it was just a completely separate, but it almost felt like, oh, somebody's just trying to rip off of the success of Harry Potter. Like, I never read those books because it was like, I don't want to knock off,
I didn't read them, but and though I liked the first movie that came out, I don't know if you watched the first season on Disney Plus.
I haven't seen anything. I mean, I've met some people that know him, and like I said, I've changed my opinion through finding out more about him, and kind of like that, obviously it wasn't a cash grab, it was kind of like its own thing. But yeah, like, it wasn't something I ever gave a second thought to because of just the timing of it,
Yeah, no, I get them.
Yeah.
But I'm actually much more of a Percy Jackson fan over a Harry Potter fan. I will say that.
Which is funny because I didn't read Harry Potter until the second or third. I saw a couple in the theaters. I had no interest in reading it, and after I saw a couple of movies and liked it, I was like, you know what? And then I got like really hooked on it.
Yeah, I never really read it. Like, Janine read it. We even went to some of those late night openings, like midnight Barnes and Noble type of thing, and it's always funny. There was one we went to, I forgot which book it was, and someone recognized me. They're like, "Aren't you, the guy who draws this character?" And blah blah blah, and then they kind of kept like peeking their heads out. I was like, it was almost like I was a celebrity, but it was like creepy. And
yeah,
but
now you know how the celebrities feel.
Yeah, but it was kind of funny. But Yeah, no, Janine would read like a chapter or two and then be like, "Okay, here's what happened," and I'm like, "I don't want to read the book." Like, but she was so excited, so I basically feel like I read the books because I
I
knew
gotcha.
everything that was going on. But yeah, no, I just have always been a big fan of Greek mythology. So Percy Jackson was.
Oh, I see. Yeah, that's more my brother's realm. I was more of a Norse mythology guy.
Mhm.
Because again, with the Tolkien thing, I just started. I got into this obsessive place where I wanted to keep finding all the sources that went back as far as I could go. So
Yeah,
that's how I wound up reading, like, Norse epics translated into English. Like that was my free time in college. Like I was just reading these things. A lot of Celtic mythology too, but that's some weird stuff. I like it, but it's very strange. Um, I don't know how to explain it, but they don't set up powers that people have. It's like, oh yeah, I'm just going to turn into a bird because that's kind of convenient to the story right now. Is kind of how it feels sometimes. But uh, imaginative, definitely. But yeah, I wasn't. I didn't read as much Greek stuff, although I still have a bunch of books on my shelf that I would like to get through. I buy a massive amount of stuff on a topic and read through about a quarter of it, and then a new topic comes along, and then I move over, and
yeah. I'm looking something up. I want to ask you if you watched them, but I forgot the title of it, so I'm just
I'm
looking.
sorry, you're not going to get any sleep today. But now you're talking about stuff that I could just like.
No, I
Oh,
know. I know. There's an animate. I think it's on Netflix. That's what I'm looking at right now. Um, it's an animated like series, short. It's I know they're only one season right now, but I think only like maybe 7 or 10 episodes. But it's all Norse mythology. Um,
oh, definitely not. I haven't seen anything like that.
oh my god! I mean, it's very. It's not for kids. It can be very graphic, very violent. Um,
Well, that's good. It's I always like to say Norse mythology is kind of like cold, rainy depression. It's like really morose, sad. I haven't played Nier. It's funny. I'm very much a fantasy and horror guy. Whenever stuff gets a little bit techy and sci-fi, I kind of steer away from it. I have wanted to try it out. I hear it's kind of like part of the Drakengard series or a spinoff. I never played it though. Another funny thing is I haven't played a Square Enix game since Final Fantasy 12. I think I just jumped ship after that. The translator I was talking about was one of the translators that was on some of the Final Fantasy games, and the video game creator was Yasumi Matsuno, who did Final Fantasy Tactics, Vagrant Story, and Final Fantasy 12 before something happened where he's off the project. After he left and some of the output they had, I just wasn't as interested in their stuff anymore. But I keep looking at it. I keep looking at going back to that one. That one and I think it's Final Fantasy 15 has kind of a very dark fantasy theme to it, so I might want to check it out. But actually, David, yeah, video games are like a big inspiration for me too. Books, comics, video games, movies. I just pull from everything.
yeah.
Yeah, it is a spin-off of Drakengard. I'm almost done with the game. It's real. I had a student that was like obsessed with the characters. Somebody asked me to do a commission of the male character. I forgot what his name is. I know they both have like cloths over their eyes, but I did him. Um, I should get it on my website. It's pretty good. Actually, I might have it in my phone. I don't know how well it's going to show up on the camera, but
I'll wait till you. And I was going to put up the name of the show is called Twilight of the Gods. It's a Zack.
I have heard of it. this time for real. I don't know what I was thinking about Bad Sad, but like I have heard of Twilight of the Gods. Yes.
Yeah, that I like the art style too. And
But I didn't know it was an animation, you know.
Yeah.
It's funny you mentioned that, and I'm sorry to go off topic for a second.
Yeah.
So here's an example though. Well, not completely off topic. You want to talk about, like, remember I was saying earlier, oh, I would have liked to change the way animation was done instead of trying to make it realistic and everything. The first time ever, and I haven't watched the show, it's also on Netflix. First time ever that I saw an animation that looked like what I would have liked to try to achieve is that show Arcane.
Okay.
Like, I think that's beautiful 3D animation, and that's the kind of stuff I wanted to kind of create. Was not that exactly, but like they're definitely using a lot of texture layers on that because of the way some of the highlights and shadows are on those faces and bodies and stuff. Like, it's enhanced by those textures, so it has this something that you can't get with 3D. I mean, something that you can't get with 2D, but it's also not trying to be realistic art. Why am I not able to find this? I know I have to have it on this camera roll because I have the Terrificon and I have the Rhode Island.
What happened there? I just wanted. So while you're looking, this is the Twilight of the Gods.
Right. Oh man, it was 2 years ago. That's why. Twilight of the Gods. I found it, but you can show me yours first.
Well, okay. I'll give you the screen, and then you can hold your.
Oh yeah. I don't know how well that's not going to show up at all, is it? No.
Mouse. Here it is. Why is it not allowing me to? There it goes. Hold it up again. It wasn't allowing me to.
Right. Oh man.
Okay.
Hang on. That any better? No, it's not. Hang on. Maybe if I turn the screen brightness down for a second, will it stop having like a?
Yeah, he says
Yeah.
it was fantastic. I saw it. Yeah, I saw it.
Yeah, it was for a second. I just can't get it straight on, but
That looks great.
yeah. Yeah, that was just like a small 6x8. But I knew the characters enough. And, you know, I look up the reference or whatever, but thank you.
All right, let's see if I can remove you from being large now.
It's okay.
There's okay. There. So I believe this was a book. I don't know if it was a comic. I don't know if it was before it became an animated series. I don't know much about it. I just know I really enjoy.
Well, that's why it might sound familiar to me. I don't know if it was a book or a comic, but
I mean, we got here. This is somebody else's stuff. That doesn't look like anything that would be part of it. But yeah, no, this artwork I thought was gorgeous. And it's just, I've watched the first 2 episodes. I haven't been on Netflix because what happens is I try to watch stuff while I work, and if I put on something I've never seen, I gotta watch it. So I tend to,
yeah, that's why I don't do movies. I try to do like podcasts, and I listen to a lot of Red Letter Media episodes that I've already watched.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That's what I do. Lately, I've been on I like to cook, so I've been on a Kitchen Nightmares reruns.
Oh, look at you! Do you know I was on an episode of Gordon Ramsay's? Is that's not Kitchen Nightmares, right?
Yeah, he does Kitchen Nightmares. He had Hotel Hell.
Right. Yeah, I've seen some hotel. I was on, I forget what season it is. It might be like 4, somewhere between 4 and 6 episode, whatever. It's the Grasshoppers episode. I went with my friend. I went with his friend, my friend Steve and his family. It was right here in New Jersey. I mean, they just tanked. The place closed down, so I know they didn't listen to anything he said. But, yeah, I didn't get to speak on camera, but my friend Steve does. But if you catch me like really quick in a couple of like clips, you know.
That's funny. I'm gonna have to.
Yeah.
You think it was a kitchen? It was Kitchen Nightmares.
Yeah, it definitely was Kitchen Nightmares. It was the grasshopper episode. I always try to look for this thing, but then I always forget the timestamp I'm at. It's toward the end.
That's okay. I watched the whole episode. I love that stuff. I mean, listen, I know some of it is staged and all that stuff, but you know, I like. I always thought if I didn't go into art, I would have gone into culinary. So, and I'm glad I didn't.
Oh right, yeah. No, I know you've spoken about that.
So I wouldn't. I don't, these days I wouldn't be able to stand all those hours to be behind a grill or take the heat anymore. But anyway, man, we're getting close. It's almost midnight. We should really wrap up.
Wait a minute.
Okay. What are you showing now?
I'm trying to get you the is this the full? Oh yeah. If you type in Gordon Ramsay grasshopper, you'll get the title of the it titles the video as Gordon Ramsay spits out his food. Kitchen Nightmares full episode 3 years ago. Grasshopper. Yeah, I still remember those people.
Hold on.
Sorry. This is what happens when you get me on when I'm not feeling sick, like I was the last time.
No, it's okay. Listen, I will put this on, but I think in the picture that I saw, I think I recognize the people.
I am so hard to. First of all, I had a goatee at the time, and it's when I had like short, spiky hair. So, but you might be able to recognize me.
I'll have to really look that up. Okay, that's kind of cool.
It was more than 3 years ago, though. Obviously, that happened. Yeah, a long time ago.
Full episode 2019, I think it is. I think it was 2019.
Yeah, it's when they posted it, but we definitely. I want to say I was like just 30 at the time, so it had to be at least 10 years ago that episode was shot.
Okay.
Yeah.
I feel like I just watched this one a few days ago. Anyway, let's wrap up for tonight. You and I, we could talk more another day. We got to get together for lunch or something.
We just got to have a roundtable discussion where we start at like noon.
Yeah.
And just have our tea and coffee and just sit around.
I'm all for that.
Yeah.
Yeah, we'll get David to come on. He'll enjoy this.
Yeah, David should come on. I haven't seen him in a while. Yeah.
All right, guys.
Happy New Year to you too, David.
Kitchen night. Many blessings. Happy New Year, man. We'll talk soon.
Yeah, it's got to be, if it's a 40-minute episode, I'm probably at like the 34-minute mark or something. Like it's way late in the episode. Maybe 38. I know it's like
right by the end.
Yeah.
All right.
And you can miss me so quick. You really can.
I'm going to have to probably do a quick scroll through it just to see, like I'll do it on my phone before I go to bed because I don't think I'm drawing tonight.
Now you're making me want to do it just so I can give everybody a timestamp.
It's okay. It'll be one of those social media posts for you.
That's not a bad idea. Oh my God, wait. Oh, okay. So at 35:10, you can see the back of my head and my friend Steve's family, like right there. That's my friend. Wait, where are we? This side? That's my friend Steve. That's the back of my head right there.
That's hysterical.
Yeah, that's his parents. That's his sister on the side there. Like, yeah. But there's another shot where it does like a dolly shot through the restaurant, and you can see the front of my face for like all of 2 seconds. Not even. Maybe like a half a second.
But I've never seen you really with spiky looking hair, so that'll be interesting.
Oh, you must have. I think we knew each other back then.
When I always remember you with the like the curled handlebar mustache type of thing, and
I had spiky hair then.
Was that? I thought it was always parted to the side.
No, it was spiked then, but
okay.
Everybody was always concentrated on the mustache, which I understand.
Yeah, no, I get it, but I just always thought it was parted like a whole.
But that was another case. That was another case where I had that mustache on so much. I mean, for so long, people knew me for the mustache, not for my work. There's something to just being just obnoxiously, well, not obnoxious, but just like on a constant, like, feed of a certain thing.
Yeah.
You'll get known for it.
Well, for me, I'm very good with faces. So yeah. I'm bad with remembering names, so I'm really good with faces. So when you shaved it off, it took me a while to recognize you.
Oh, I get that. There was a time where I had long hair and a ponytail before you met me.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember I went up to Mark McKenna at Garden State Comic Fest, and I had spoken to him quite a few times,
Yeah.
And he had no idea who I was. And I was like, oh yeah, I cut my hair. And he was like, well, maybe you shouldn't have done that.
It's funny you say that. I haven't seen him in a while, but the first time I met him a few times, and it was, I think, at Garden State, and he kind of got to know me, and we talked once, and we had a really great conversation. And then I didn't see him for like 6 months, and I went over to say hi because we had such a nice conversation. He had no clue who the hell I was anymore. Like, he forgot.
Yeah.
And
eventually,
it wasn't until he came to, like, he walked by and saw my table that I think he remembered me.
Yeah, it took him a while for me too. Yeah. Definitely, it wasn't like an immediate. I was like one of the time after that I saw him.
Yeah, I'd love to get him back on the show. He's been on the show. He was on the show a couple of years ago, and
you're going to get me on another tangent. He was my first portfolio review.
Oh, was he? Well, listen, save that for another story. Listen, it is midnight. I do need to get going. I'm scrubbing this video to find my timestamp. I'm just
while you're talking, I'm listening to everything.
If I didn't have to do what I have to do in the morning, usually I sleep in. I just have to get up early. But usually, because I don't start my work day till 10, so I don't get out of bed till like 8:30. Make my coffee, and then I spend a good hour or so, between 8 and 8:30. And then it's an hour, and then I have my coffee, and then I get into the studio and work if I can until I have to start my day. So
right,
but tomorrow I have to go out in the morning. So
almost. Sorry, I've almost found this.
I'll give you another moment or so. In the meantime, guys, listen up. Next week on my show, I have Arlen Schumer coming on. If you're a Twilight Zone fan, do not miss it. He wrote this book, The 5 Themes of the Twilight Zone, and it's really interesting. I've been reading through it. I won't have the whole book done by the time, but I'm reading through some of my favorite episodes. I'm a huge Twilight Zone fan too, and
Tales from the Dark Side for me. But
okay, yeah, I watched a little bit of that, but this was more my thing. Was Twilight Zone. and with the Howling Man probably being my favorite, which was probably would be considered like a horror, and also scared the hell out of me as a kid.
Oh
And
yeah.
watch it correctly, still like the right mood, it could still scare the hell out of me. I don't know if you know that episode.
I
All of the
don't.
masks, so good, so good. The Howling Man, you'll like. There's a guy who comes to a monastery in the rain, and there's a guy just howling down in like a dungeon, and they're like, "Why won't you help this man? Why won't?" And they're like, "No, no, we can't help this man." And I won't spoil it for you. You should go. I think it's on. Who has it now? Like, is it the Paramount app or Peacock, or I think one of those apps? Maybe you'll find out on Hulu. Who knows, or Netflix. But go watch The Howling Man. Also,
Awesome.
The Obsolete Man with Burgess Meredith. There's the one where they always say, not enough time or whatever it's called. That's where he breaks his glasses. There's the memes and stuff. But there's this one, An Obsolete Man, where he's on trial for believing in God because in the future they don't believe in God anymore. And
Oh, I think I've heard of that episode. Yeah.
they're going to execute him. And the stuff that it was just so far beyond its time, that show. The Masks is a great episode. Actually, I think he covers the masks in this book. Also, if you're a fan of Silver Age comics, by the way, you can go to Arlen Schumer's YouTube channel, and he's got videos on a bunch of stuff. One or two on the Twilight Zone based on this book, but he wrote a book called like I think it's called the Silver Age Artists or something, and he picked like six
Oh, damn it! Sorry.
artists. It's okay.
Just-
Artists to talk. So he talks about like Gil Kane and Jack Kirby and Carmine Infantino and all these things, and what it's about their career. But he's got these great videos. I do want to get a copy of the book. The Eye of the Beholder, that's a good one too. But masks, I know the masks are in here, and that's one of my favorites. That's right here, the masks. It is so good. Did you, David? I know we haven't ended. You're still watching. Did you watch it the other day when they did the New Year's Day marathon? That was one I made sure to catch. Was the masks. It started on 8. Oh wow, that is.
There I am.
I got to.
Timestamp is, and it happened so quick. It's 35:14 for anybody watching that wants to check that
I'm
out.
going to go to that episode if Janine is still awake and show her.
I'm so sorry.
No, dude, don't worry.
I kept everybody hanging on for this. It's so hard to find. It really is.
Oh, I get it.
Which is why, like, my students were like, "Oh my God, you're on TV." I was like, "Listen, it's so fast, you're not going to catch it."
All right. Good night.
Yeah, good night, Dylan. If you're even still watching. Oh, there you go. Okay,
Dylan's
good.
back. Good night, Dylan. You watch. Oh.
Hey, at least you get the Amazon ads. I get crazy ads. How to make money on Amazon. I get doomsday prophet, like preparing for the apocalypse stuff. I get weird ads on YouTube all the time. It's a lot of fun. I like laughing at them.
All right. Well, thanks for coming on. Thanks for staying on this long. I really appreciate it. I had a lot of fun.
Me too.
You and I, like I said, we'll get together and sit down and chat. David got to come along. We'll have fun. And tune in next week. We have Arlen Schumer coming on. I got a great month planned. I wish I remember everybody who's coming on at the moment. I'd have to look at my calendar, but we got some really good guests. I'm booked throughout February with the show with some really fantastic people. So, please make sure to tune in and And I'll see you next week, guys. All right? Bye, guys.
All right. Good night, everyone.